Game night for the Buffalo Sabres as they look to win 3 in a row. They're in Utah tonight for the first time since the Utah Hockey Club relocated from Arizona. Lineup news, J.J. Peterka expected to return tonight on a line with Alex Tuch and Tage Thompson. Puck drop for Buffalo and Utah set for 9 p.m. tonight. Pre-game show will start at 8 here on WGR. Elsewhere in hockey, the Alex Ovechkin watch continues. He remains 8 goals from Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. Washington plays against Philadelphia tonight at 7 p.m. First round of March Madness going on all day today. The first team to advance was 9th seed Creighton, who defeated Louisville 89-75. Meanwhile, 4th seed Purdue beats High Point 75-63. Games going on right now. In progress, number 3 Wisconsin has a 65-52 lead on Montana, while top seed Houston has a 52-24 lead on SIU Edwardsville. Just tipping off, Auburn and Alabama State, one of the other 1 seeds in the Auburn Tigers, tied at 3 with Alabama State as that game just getting started. Elsewhere in basketball to the pro circuit, the Boston Celtics reportedly sold for $6.1 billion, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. That would surpass the price that the Washington Commanders in the NFL were sold for back in 2023. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet is celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR Sports Radio 550.
Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Schopp and the Bulldog.
I Grubhubbed one of the best sushi restaurants in Buffalo, and they brought sushi to my son and I. It was great.
At your house.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Listen to this. What
and that's a very good thing to have delivered because, hot is not really pertinent at all.
Don't eat hot sushi.
Right.
In
fact, I think hot sushi would probably be
terrible.
Really gross.
Don't do it.
It's Mike Schopp.
Fresh hot in neon is not something you see above the sushi place.
Can I get this? No, that's right.
Hot, fresh hot sushi.
And hot sushi.
That is so gross. Fresh hot sushi here.
You get some sushi, you open the lid, and it's like steam comes out.
And the Bulldog.
Please stop.
Right, Ryan? You ever do that?
I've got nothing
you get
to
the
throw
sushi.
up in my stomach. But
You
if
open
I
up the lid, and it's just sizzling like a fajita.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
What are you doing in there? I'm microwaving the sushi.
Right. WGR Sports Radio 550.
You would think. Can you hear me?
No.
Really?
No.
You over there?
You want to come over here and share my mic with me? Oh, hang on. We're getting a thumbs up from Derek all of a sudden. Maybe your gear's working again. We'll have to see. A little drama. I was thinking you thought your headphones only weren't going to work, and your mic was, and I thought it would be right of me to take my headphones off in a show of solidarity for the show. If you were going to be headphoneless, I was also going to go headphoneless.
I was about to say, you would think
we don't have to now.
You would think I'd be able to do this without headphones on because it's really just the same. Like I can hear you. You're sitting like 2 feet away. But it was going to be weird.
No,
it's happened.
It would really freak me out too. It's just habit. Just used to it. There was a day recently where maybe at the end of the show I had to do a live spot, and I'd wrapped up my headphones and I sat in here and did the live spot without the headphones on, and it just felt weird not hearing it like that.
It really is
the other way. Just
talking.
Yeah,
but this is the headgear. We got it. We're all set.
Hang on, let me see. I'm gonna. No, see, I already can't stand it. I just took my headphones off. I can't. No, I can't do it.
I probably should have noticed that before 10 seconds before we started, but I've been rattled for like the last 20 minutes about something. And
oh no!
I'm going to use this as an excuse.
Okay.
I did a PFF mock draft.
Yeah.
I got an F.
An F?
Not for the whole thing, but for one pick. And I don't know what I did. This reminds me of like being home and somebody's upset, and I don't know what I did. Like, what did I say? What did I even do? What is it that I did or said that led to this? I don't even know.
How do you not know which pick? Does it grade each
I'll
pick?
tell you which pick. It was a 4th round pick, which,
all right.
So what?
Yeah, right.
Vernon Broughton of Texas, who is a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. I believe that's one of my needs.
Sure, I would agree with that assessment.
And on the PFF big board, he's player number 76. I got him at pick 109. He was my second interior defensive lineman, both from Texas, by the way, Alfred Collins and now Vernon Broughton, and I got an F.
Maybe that's the problem. These two guys are known to not get along, Mike.
Yeah, maybe
They're oil and water. They cannot. They barely got through college.
I go wide receiver because Luther Burden at 30, Alfred Collins, JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State, edge, A, B plus A. And then a second, I've got 7 picks left. I go defensive tackle again, and it's a steal. It's like a round leap.
Yeah.
And I get an F for that. And what was I supposed to? I hadn't picked a corner yet. I hadn't picked a quarterback or a running back yet. What did I do?
Maybe the not picking a corner. Can you?
I eventually got 2.
Can you go back and do the whole thing again?
I'm not doing that.
And pick a corner ahead of time to see if that is the big misstep? That's the only thing you've said so far that would make any sense to me, why the grade would be so bad there. Because you doubled down on defensive linemen, or even triple down if you count Ed. You said you already had an interior defensive lineman in addition to this guy plus an edge guy.
Right.
So you're
what's so bad about that?
I don't think that's bad, but well, let's play it out. We're watching the draft, and round 1 comes, and the Bills take a slot receiver with their first pick.
All right.
I'm just gonna say it that way to be intentionally pejorative.
Why?
Because that's what I think. Right? That's what E-Track says. Didn't we talk about that last week? So all right, but you picked. Oh, I won't weight it. You picked a receiver. Then you did what? An interior defensive line.
Yes.
Then an edge.
Yes.
And then another interior defensive lineman. If we're riding that ride draft weekend, and the Bills have not found their way to Rasul Douglas or Asante Samuel Jr. or your name here, some other dude that I'm not even thinking of right now, I think we would be losing our minds. That they don't have a corner. That they haven't picked a corner. That they didn't prioritize. What are we going to do for another corner? Maybe that's why that's an F.
You can't give it that much credit. The app is good. It's not that good. And by the way, this is not like to argue with you, but right or wrong, they will have a veteran cornerback signed by then. They're not going to go into the draft. They do this for every other position. Sign, maybes, depth pieces, insurance policies at different positions. They have to, I don't know what's holding it up. Maybe they're waiting on Douglas. Maybe. Like he might be the best.
That's plausible.
He might be the best option available. They know him, and he knows them, and he hasn't signed anywhere else. So it might be a case where he's hoping to get more than what the Bills are offering him, and if he can't, then he comes back. I mean, they'll have whoever. They could draft, yes or no? They could draft a corner at 30. Is that guy starting the opener? Maybe only if it's in the first round would I think the player would start.
Yeah.
Or even could start.
I mean, I know it's what number did they move up to get Elam? Was that
22?
22 or something? So I mean, that's 8 picks sooner, but they were in, and I don't remember what sort of depth signings they made that year. The big reason that looked like a need was that White was coming off an injury, and I don't remember who was across from him at that time then. I could go look at the roster and figure it out. It wouldn't be that hard, but I don't have it right here as we're talking.
What year?
When they drafted Elam. We knew they needed a guy. It was because they needed Tre'Davious White insurance. We couldn't be sure they could rely on him to be ready.
Okay, Wallace.
Coming off an ACL. Yeah, probably Levi Wallace. Either way, I don't know how much they filled out their depth chart.
Oh, actually, that's after Wallace left.
With veterans.
I think he leaves after 13 seconds, right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
And he talked about, he was the only person that would talk about the play.
Yeah.
2 plays. So Elam comes kind of to replace him.
And so all I'm saying is you could have said the same thing that year, and I don't remember what they did to fill it out before the draft. I just know going into the draft, there was almost no question to me. Well, there would have been a question they were going to pick a corner because who knows? The draft's the draft. They might a bunch of teams might pick all the corners before it's your turn. Who knows? Not literally, but the ones that are worth drafting at 22 anyway. I just know that was without a doubt the need that hadn't been adequately addressed. They did not have what I thought was adequate insurance behind whatever they had, and Tre'Davious White coming back from an ACL injury. So I'm not sure that they'll do something. Dane Jackson might have been that move. And I recognize that, Douglas and other players who are more starting caliber than Dane Jackson outrank him. So they could still do that, but I'm not assuming that they will, sitting here right now. I think it certainly is called for, but I don't know. If they had a mind to want to try to get better and move on from Douglas, then you should maybe stick with that.
It's not that easy, though. Like, who knows what they've tried to do? They haven't had a ton of money. They've done other things. I wonder just what's been close, or what maybe where their efforts have been so far at corner. I don't know. I can't describe for me a draft pick that, like, by process really is an F. In the fourth round, what's an F? What does an F look like? Right? If somehow who's a team drafting at the top of the draft that has a great quarterback? I know that's usually like not what happens for a reason, but if the Bills spent pick 30 on Milroe, that could be an F.
That would be an F.
That could be an F.
I love that player, but that would be an F.
Even those years with Matt Millen, has the show ever sounded older? When the Lions drafted like receiver 3 years in a row, okay, maybe
like in the top 5,
right?
Like every time, It was crazy.
It wasn't like they were huge reaches. Mike Williams was one of the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the earlier version, earlier Mike Williams.
There was a Roy Williams in there from Texas as well.
That's the safety.
No, there was a receiver, Roy Williams too.
Oh, there was?
Yes, from Texas.
And where did the safety go to school? Roy Williams. That played for Dallas.
I think he also went to Texas. I know this is confusing.
You could get an F for drafting a player that has exactly the same name as someone else
and went to the same school. Maybe we think. I think that's right. I remember Roy Williams in that Texas uniform, like number 5 for some reason. I loved him.
The DB went to Oklahoma.
Okay.
So maybe that's an F if you're just...
Yeah.
I don't know. What is an F? Yeah, you're right. Roy Williams, receiver for the Lions, 2004. Very good. So, what's an F? You have Mahomes and you draft a quarterback. You have... If the Falcons drafted Gentry...
Right. Right.
Maybe that's an F.
That's an F.
A fourth-round defensive lineman that I need. I got to talk to some... everybody that I have known from PFF is gone, pretty much. Yeah. Not everybody. Trevor maybe is Sycamore. Maybe
I
is
think
still
that's
there.
right. Yeah,
I got to get in touch with somebody. So in round 4, the Bills have 2 fourths. I get the F. I draft a halfback.
Even if they're okay,
B- for Damian Martinez. But the Bills are going to do. If the Bills are going to do that, that's when and how they do it.
Right.
Day 3, where there's still some talent on the board. Right. So.
And was there a corner in this scenario that you already picked?
Not yet.
Okay. Huh.
Round 5, 3 picks out of 5. The Bills have 3 out of 5 picks late in round 5. Linebacker, corner, edge. My last pick was a corner, and between edge and corner, I picked Kyle McCord for something to do there. Quarterback.
Syracuse quarterback.
Is that crazy?
That's
not an F.
I don't think that's crazy. Like late, I
got an A-. I
don't have a problem if the Bills want to take another run at the Jake Fromm idea. At some point on Saturday, fine. It remains to be seen. I'll believe they're going to make 10 picks when I see them make 10 picks, by the way. Like, I would expect them to burn some of those picks.
How?
Moving around in round 4 or 5, or, some guy they like that they're worried is going to get scooped up, so they move up 3 spots in round 4 to get, whatever. I could see them doing some stuff like that, because as many needs as we can list off that they need to, they need to upgrade and they need to hit on some picks because of the salary cap and all this stuff. 10 rookies aren't making this team. Like, there's not that much room. So I would expect them to feel that way. I'd be surprised if they don't feel that way, and therefore, move around a little bit and treat those picks like the assets that they are, realizing like the chances of a guy they're going to pick on Saturday late isn't going to make it anyway.
Okay, 10 rookies aren't making the team. I mean, that's probably right. And there's always movement, so that's probably right. But I'm definitely in the mood for the Bills to load up on draft picks. I like that they have 10 now. They got a couple of comp picks. There was the Elam trade, and so they got to 10, and I don't think that's a bad number. I think you can acknowledge they all won't make it, but still want to make all those picks just to give yourself that many more cracks at rookies. Like, you could have used the same logic the Benford year, especially because they'd already drafted Elam. Well, we really don't need this pick. They were a better team then. Right? They were sort of more loaded 3 years ago. We already drafted a corner. Not that many rookies. We don't have room. Let's dump the Benford pick, and then if they don't pick him, that's the reason for holding the picks or hoarding them even. So all my guys are not going to make it. You're right. These 10, some of them are going to have to go. The F, I don't know. That guy got to be motivated.
He's probably done.
Got an F. That's just so harsh for a position of need at a big school.
Somebody reach out on social media and let this guy know that he was graded an F.
Just why?
Could be the turning point of his burgeoning career.
Milroe with pick 30 would be like an F. But I did ponder that today, like round 2. I did ponder it. I wrote down the idea, and then I wrote like why. This would not stop at one reason, but like one reason why no.
What? Did you just
I had the idea of the Bills taking your buddy Milroe at pick 56. Do they have? Is that the number? Their first 56. Like, I just thought about it. What if they were to do that? Maybe they love him as a prospect. You say somebody's going to fall in love with him.
Yeah.
They're the team that does. And the idea would be, packages, right? I've got a burner who can throw. Right? I'm not going to ask him to do much of that.
Yeah.
But I've got a guy that can throw you a curveball.
And Allen is at some point going to slow down. Look, running wise, you're going to want to, whether that happens naturally because his athleticism starts to, deteriorate to some degree, or just to protect him, maybe you'd want to have another running option. This is a terrible idea.
I wrote, imagine taking Allen off the field, though.
Right. That's a tough one there.
Is somebody going to want to make him? I don't know enough about his all of his traits, but is somebody going to want to make him a receiver or something like that?
No, I don't think so.
We're not going to have that.
I don't think so.
Lovely conversation.
No, I think there's a few reasons I would say no, somewhat emphatically. I think there is optimism about him being teachable and being able to learn the things that he needs to improve on as a passer. But the raw talent, I think, is there. It's a lot of mechanical stuff, and I think you could hope, like you hoped with Allen, that you could fix that. Now, there's more cautionary tales since Allen succeeded. Anthony Richardson maybe being the most recent example of a guy that was toolsy and was overdrafted, at least at this point. I think that's what you'd say. And so that, I think, hurts Milroe. If Milroe is the year of Anthony Richardson, he's probably getting drafted where Richardson got picked because of the tools and the speed. The rushing is elite. It is elite for a quarterback. There's almost no question about that. So, and he is off the charts with, like, I'm in charge. Look at me. I'm the captain now, right? He's one of those guys. So a team that looks at his skill set and meets him and talks to him is not going to move him to receiver. If they're going to invest in him, they're going to invest in him because they think they can make him into their franchise quarterback. And I mean, whatever. I've got a bet where he's going in the top 16. I don't think I'm going to win that bet. I can't imagine him lasting until pick 56. Although, I mean, it happened in your exercise. But what do you know? You got an F.
Not for that. And I don't. He maybe didn't last that long in this. I didn't draft him in the mock draft or even know if I had the choice to.
Oh,
that was just separate.
I see.
That was just separate. I just sort of thought about it for 30 seconds. I wanted it to be like I wanted to be able to make a case for it because it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I really couldn't. Really couldn't. Maybe I don't have round 3.
We'll see how this all unfolds and what they do, if anything. But I at corner, I'm going to circle back to that here. I feel like I'm going to have a very hard time believing, even if they were to bring a Rasul Douglas back or Stephon Gilmore, say, right, who's still out there. Tre'Davious White is still out there. If they were to bring back a veteran of that stature, I still think corner, there's an argument that is the biggest need, because moving forward, like if you patch with one of those guys, that's all it is. It's a patch. And you're still going to be looking for a guy to be opposite Benford, assuming you're going to pay Benford and keep moving forward with Benford. I mean, that has not happened yet, but he's still under contract for another year, so they've got time here. Mm-hmm. But, I think it's right to think that was going to be the hardest of these, the most expensive, and it's the one that is still kind of waiting. I don't know, maybe Cook will challenge that. It won't be the most expensive, but maybe it'll be more challenging. But anyway, they're going to need a piece there to develop even at some point. So I don't know, man. I think 30 is still, like, as much as I like the other ideas, corners, it's looking more and more to me like 22. But I just don't know who's playing over there. And that's weird for a contending team.
And do you have a favorite? I don't know the difference. Maxwell Hairston or Amos is the other guy.
The guy that Chris mocked a couple of weeks ago, Amos from Ole Miss, sounds fine to me.
Sounds fine. Whatever.
Sounds fine.
One of them. Somebody that we've heard of that, pretty much is consensus. That's around where they should go.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Of course, that was Elam.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you're right to make the long-term point. It's not just about this season. One of those other guys for this season, maybe that's a good idea. But you're also trying to, long-term.
Put your team together, right. I mean, it would be nice to have a corner if you hit on the pick with the fifth-year option and the whole deal, and just sort of ease into it here. But obviously you got to get it right, the right guy. They cannot afford. Need it be said, like a repeat of the Elam thing. Like that is still a very stanky situation for them. That they didn't hit on that pick is really tough.
We love talking about the draft. It's about a month away. 803-0550 for your calls. We'll be mixing in takes on the tournament as we watch throughout the day. One of the best days of the year on the sports calendar is this one and tomorrow. The Sabres play tonight. We'll have Paul Hamilton on later. Before that, Jeremy Kahn out of Baltimore will join us again. That'll be at 4. Late yesterday, we got into the AFC and just what will be different next year in the AFC. Because something always is. What was different this year, though? I want to talk about that a little bit more. And, considering Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, and what that has been over the last 5 years or so, the several teams that almost look like they have no chance. It's not that many. It's not no chance, but just wonder in a sport where last place teams win divisions the next year and all that it is in the way of being unpredictable, what you might think will be different next year. Lines are open at 803-0550. Thanks for joining us. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
We
memorable season for High Point. Their first ever trip to the NCAA tournament, but it's last year's runner-up that is running right into the second round here in Providence.
That would be Purdue over High Point today at the tournament. I guess it wasn't the high point of the season for High Point. The low point, probably, losing the final game. The endings at the tournament, I don't mean like buzzer beaters, but just like Bulldog left after that, by the way. He's off. If you're watching, you saw it. He was just so offended by that one. Saw it coming. Who didn't? The player career endings, like the finality of it.
Yeah.
A guy on Louisville got hurt. And I don't know if he was a senior or what it is, whether it was his last game, but end of the season, it's got to be such an emotional moment when you've played your last game and you know it, which is going to be somebody on every team that loses here for the rest of the way.
Probably most guys, even on most teams. Like, that's the case. And I'm sure some of these teams have got at least starters who are all going to make the next level or have a chance to make the next level, but most teams aren't like that, and certainly the guys on the bench on most teams aren't like that. So the curtain comes down. There's a finality there for sure.
Who are you on? Yesterday this time, Trista was begging us and everybody else to join in her tournament. Or pool, rather.
I'm on Michigan. I did. I jumped in on her pool and on Joe Ostrowski's. Not the big high stakes one that's like $250 or whatever entry, just the regular one. And I did the same. I did the same picks in both, which I know is really dopey. But
why?
I don't know. Just if I lose, then I'm out of both. So I could have tried to change it up, but we were talking to these people yesterday. We had Sammy Lade and Trista, like you referenced earlier, and game theory and all this stuff. And like I'm just not. I'm not going in. For me, I did both of these because those are both people who've given us a lot of their time, and I definitely appreciate that. And poor Trista was like, whatever she was saying yesterday at this time, 13 people or whatever she had. I'm like, all right, I'll tweet. I'm going to try to help you, and I will join. But there's a chance, even if I make it through today and tomorrow, that I will forget to even make a pick because I'm on vacation. I'm going to be in Puerto Rico. I just am not. There's not a time change, so that helps, I guess. Like at least it won't be like at a different time of the day or anything. But I doubt I'll be thinking much about it once I get on the plane.
I don't blame you for that, but I'll do it if you want. Let me do it. Because it's still $100.
Well, if I make
you don't want to just donate it.
If I make it through, then maybe I'll.
You could have sent Trista $50.
I'll buzz you if I make it through, because I don't know what I'm going to do. Tomorrow I see. This is how hurriedly I did this. The whole process, by the way, like I know I've done stuff with Joe before, so I thought I had an account, but I had to do the whole thing, sign up. Oh, no, you do have an account. You forget the password, email, like that whole process, that is easy to walk away from. But again, these are our friends. Okay. Now it's time to make the picks. I'm already annoyed and tired. I just want to get it over with. So, what did Sam say when I asked him about some picks? He says about Michigan, try to find teams that you don't think are going to go far, but that you like to win their first game.
Right.
And then you're done with them. And he mentioned Michigan, I think, in that context. And then he mentioned Grand Canyon.
Canyon? Yeah. Playing Maryland, I think?
Yeah. Was that in that same, or was that a different, he likes that as an upset pick? I don't remember if that was Survivor suggestion or not. But those were the two schools I had in my head. So I did Thursday, I did Friday, Michigan, Grand Canyon, and then we'll see what happens.
Grand Canyon will not be favored.
No.
I think that's one where you'd want to have points against Maryland.
Yeah.
Not in this.
That's a 13-4, I think.
Yeah. I don't think you'd want him in this. But, if that's your pick, we'll see what happens with Michigan. They're a small favorite against San Diego, 2.5, 3 points, something like that. I'm through with Wisconsin. It was a little, good through. On to tomorrow.
Okay.
Wisconsin has already won. It was a little safe. The thing about that format, which I love about it. And I brought this up to Sam, and I don't think he's used to playing with the points. Like, it's Ostrowski's pool, and the seeds, the points you get, if it's a 3, like Wisconsin was a 3 seed, is a 3 seed. So I get 3 points for their winning. It only comes into play if you get all the way through the championship game and there's more than one team left. And I think maybe this is my 3rd year in it, I think maybe the last 2 years, it did not get all the way home. So I think I've probably overweighted the seed points and maybe lost, at least last year, on teams that were like not that good. So I played it safer with Wisconsin, which was the most popular pick today in all these pools was Wisconsin for that reason. So I'm dead probably already if the favorites run the table here. Like people are kind of talking like they probably will. The 1 seeds are too good because somebody's going to win today on like a 9 seed or like Creighton was, and they won, and I've got 3, and I'll never catch up unless I try to make up for that tomorrow or something like that, while there still are the higher seeds left.
Well, let me tell you a little something about Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. I don't think so.
You make up the points. There it is.
I don't think so. Colorado State would be the one. And I'm not sure if that's today or tomorrow, but they're favored as a 12, which would make them chalky in Survivor. A lot of people will do that too. It's also that, and I guess maybe I was a little bit to blame for this today, this point, that you spend the money, you don't want to go out by 2 o'clock on the first day. Like, you want to enjoy it. So you pick maybe a little bit of a safer pick the first day and not just, whatever it would have been. Louisville, I guess, would have been this today. They lose big, and you're just out. That's no fun.
When I made the pick, I guess I should have realized, but again, I don't know if I made it clear. I was just kind of trying to get through it because it got pretty tedious having to re-sign up and all that crap. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's just like, whatever. It's just how it goes sometimes. But they... I scrolled for a while before I found Michigan, which should have been an indicator that the game was late. But I never really bothered to look. Like, what time are they playing? They're like one of the last games of the night. They play at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm getting up at 4 in the morning to get on a plane.
You're not watching this game.
I am not watching this game, so I will go to sleep. I'll go to sleep alive, and that's good. I'll enjoy the day, and then I'll fall asleep not knowing, and then wake up and see whether I'm live going into Friday or not.
You'll probably wake up during the night. What I would, if I had to get up really early for a flight, I'd be up
I definitely
most
will,
of the night.
But I won't look then.
Really?
Yeah.
You get up at 1, you're not going to check the Michigan score?
I won't. I'll just, because I'll
text you.
That starts a process of just, I'm awake now. If I look at something, so even when I've had other like bets that are, the finality of it is that evening, right? Like a 4-leg parlay or something, and there's a late hockey game. I wake up at 2 in the morning to go to the bathroom. I'm not looking to see if I won or not because I'll look at that and the bright light and now I'm just sort of, I don't know, I'm stimulated.
I'd have to look.
So I let it be for the morning.
Stephon Diggs visiting New England. I didn't see anything official about a signing with Diggs.
No, me either. The word last night was that he was there, I think, already yesterday or last night visiting, but I've not seen any update on that.
What do you think?
Fine. I'm not. I wouldn't be upset or overly worried. I mean, they're going to add receivers at some point, I imagine, to that team, and. He's a certain level of good, and he certainly is familiar, but I don't feel like I'm in trouble or something. Like, it doesn't bother me. And I'd like
it for them.
I'm not in a place where I'm going to be like, oh, how could he do that to us or something like that? Like, that's just nonsense to me. So, I don't know. Like, okay, good luck to you, I guess I would say.
I wonder if New England, with a player like Diggs, they have a couple of guys that aren't terrible. Demario Douglas is pretty good. After that, I mean, Polk did nothing. Baker did nothing. Boutte. I think they still have Kendrick Bourne, who's okay. Like they've been kind of like the last ranked receiver room in the league. They had Juju there, and that didn't work out. I wonder how fast they can get there. If Diggs has anything left, they do that, and then like Travis Hunter, right? It wouldn't be McMillan probably at 4, but Travis Hunter could happen at 4 if he makes it to 4. And then if they use him on offense, at least partly, as well as his playing corner, I wonder how fast they could get to, okay, now how do I match up against this? Like, it's been so easy for teams against them for a couple of years, but if May takes a step, then you have Hunter, Diggs, Pop Douglas, or Bourne. Hunter Henry's all right. Maybe they could be interesting by this year, One player like this, it will depend on what Diggs looks like, and probably that will determine whether he gets signed. To whatever extent. Maybe that can't even be known now if the injury is still too recent.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, you could trust that he's on track, and there's been it's been a smooth you talk to the doctors and all that and sign him. But I feel like with that injury, I don't know. I'd want to wait until I can really work him out a little bit more, maybe. So and that can wait. I guess it depends on what the market is for him. I did see one analyst that I follow on Twitter last night when that was making the rounds. Someone pointed out, see what this really is. It could just be his camp trying to drum up interest. Diggs is out there. Oh, he's visiting New England. Well, I was thinking about him. We should call him. That kind of thing. I don't know how real that is, but that's certainly possible because it's early. Like, I don't know how much he can really even show that he's healthy because he's 4 months into what's usually like a 9-month rehab, I think.
Yeah, when was it? October. So maybe a little later than that.
A little more than that, but still, he's got time before you'd expect him to be really going on the field.
NCAA tournament, Auburn up 2 late in the first half against Alabama State. A 116. Auburn is the number 1 overall seed, but they're in a close game so far late in the first half. 803-0550 is the number. Jeremy Kahn, Baltimore host, will join us in 20 minutes to talk about the Bills, the Ravens, the AFC. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
All the sports, music,
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, thanks for listening. The Sabres are in Utah tonight. What's that going to be, 8 o'clock pregame?
Yep.
Frank, the story is Utah. We'll see if that applies tonight. You can't run the ads and then not run the story. You can? Why not? Really? Frank, you'll get the story. You'll be very happy with it. Sabres and Utah Hockey Club. Are they going to go forward with that? Utah Hockey Club?
No, they I believe Mammoth is going to be the name as soon as next year. That has not been made official, but they are squatting on that name, like that as whatever they need, licensing. So it seems like that's going to be the choice. Which fine, whatever. I kind of like Utah HC myself, but. I would say I like it a lot more than Mammoth. I guess let's see what this Mammoth looks like first. I want to get a look at your Mammoth. Show me your Mammoth.
Then we'll decide.
Hey.
Like that Predators logo with the giant tooth. Never been able to make sense of that.
Right.
We don't want something like that to happen again.
Yeah. Sabres extend Jacob Bryson's contract. He was set to become a UFA this offseason, and they are keeping him for 1 year and less than $1 million, I think I read.
It's probably a little off to say anybody who wants to stay can stay, but isn't that what it feels like?
Kinda.
So desperate.
And that is absolutely not any sort of a... I'm fine with them keeping Zucker and Greenway. But this is he's 7 or 8. That's it. Like that's who he's been. He's not elevating beyond that, I don't think. And so fine. You know who he is. You know what he is. You trust him. And that role. I think clearly he's settling for that role by resigning here. I know he'll talk about like having a chance and whatever, but he's 7 or 8.
Yeah. Why do it? Why bother?
Yeah.
Before the season's even over? I don't know. I was not for re-signing Zucker. You got a career year out of him. You're in last place. That's an easy trade. But the Sabres are trying to make a point that people do want to play here, and we'll prove it to you by signing our free agents and running back what will mostly be the same team. I mean, how many... They could trade like Samuelson or somebody like that, or buy him out even. You could have one or two... You will have one or two changes, but really, most of the team is already back for next year unless they're traded.
Norris will be new, provided he's healthy.
Yeah.
And a full year of Kulik, and those are probably your major changes.
And they're done already. Like they're here already.
Yeah, I'm all for a something with Samuelson. Like I very rarely get to like a get off my team state, especially with a young player, and he's still relatively young.
Yep.
I can't do it. I can't watch it anymore. Power gets a lot of grief because he's big and isn't mean and tough, and he sort of fits in the same boat of what's driving me crazy about Samuelson is that he just doesn't engage at all. But the difference is Power has, like Samuelson is not capable of what Power is capable of. Carrying the puck, breaking it out, making passes, playing in the offensive zone. And I would still bet on that upside on Power. Samuelson to me is an absolute dial tone. Like the thing that he's here to do at 6'3" and 220 or 230 pounds is like everybody doesn't have to fight and be a murderer out there, but he's like the last guy in. Almost every time. You got to drag him into it. I got 5'9" or 8" Zach Benson running through 3 Red Wings to try to get to save Tage Thompson, who falls on his back early in a fight. And Samuelson's like looking like, "Are you gonna grab me? I'm gonna grab. I don't know." Like, dude, get off the ice. Get off my team. I'm done.
Auburn up 10
that's
at the half. Alabama State went in for a layup to take the lead. The shooter was fouled. They missed both free throws, and then Auburn went 9-0 to end the half. So that might have been curtains.
Yeah.
10-point lead. Clemson is down 10 to McNeese. I had a friend in Rochester, Rick Woodson, longtime writer there, from Louisiana. And everybody kind of called it McNeese State. McNeese State. And he's like, McNeese. That's how you say it. I was there. That's how you say it. McNeese.
Right. I appreciate that.
The late, great Rick Woodson. That's always stayed with me.
I'd never heard that. In all these years together, you've never had a reason to tell me how to correctly pronounce McNeese.
It's never come up.
You
It's never come up until now. Well, they're winning. They're in the tournament.
See, there's always new things to breathe life into a relationship.
Yes. That's right. You know what? If you shoot me, you're liable to lose a lot of those humanitarian awards. Just going to say that.
And there are also things to suck life out of relationships.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The staff usually forgets. Jeremy Kahn from Baltimore will join us next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
More of
For the Buffalo Sabres, as they look to make it 3 in a row, they're in Utah tonight, taking on the Utah Hockey Club. JJ Peterka expected to return to the lineup for Buffalo after missing time due to an injury. Puck drop for Sabres and Utah set for 9 o'clock tonight. Pre-game show will start at 8 here on WGR. Meanwhile, today the Sabres announcing they signed an extension with defenseman Jacob Bryson for 1 year, $900,000. To the courts, first round of March Madness all day today. Houston, Creighton, Purdue, and Wisconsin have advanced with wins earlier in the day. Meanwhile, 2 games going on at the current moment. Auburn holding a 10-point lead on Alabama State at the half, 41-31. McNeese is all over Clemson in the first half. They're up 23-8 on Clemson at the moment. Elsewhere in basketball in the NBA, the Boston Celtics were reportedly sold for $6.1 billion, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. That would surpass the price that the Washington Commanders were sold in 2023. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR.
Mike Schopp.
Last night at 12:30 in the morning, I ate a can of mushrooms. I did. Pieces and stems, if you're wondering. As opposed to buttons. It was pieces and stems, which will be my next year's fantasy football team name.
Pieces and stems.
Pieces and stems.
And the Bulldog.
I should be ashamed to admit this publicly, but whatever. How long have we been doing this? I'm a junkie. I can't be trusted.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. We've been spending a lot of time lately on the NFL draft. This just after free agency, which is not over. Most of it is. Bulldog reminded me yesterday that it only started last week. Last Monday was the beginning of free agency.
We're a week
feels like a
into
month.
it. Right.
But, some interesting players still out there. The Bills need a cornerback. They always need another wide receiver, right? Right? We'll see if anything happens. Jeremy Kahn joining us now, our friend in Baltimore, 105.7 The Fan. Jeremy, did we last speak before the playoff game? I don't think we've spoken since.
No, we haven't, man. And I wanted to say congrats to you guys because I think I even said on your show, like, I was nervous with how little I was nervous. So, yeah. I mean, when you watch the game, it was one of those weird games where I feel like Ravens fans have done this the past 3 years where it's like, what's going on? How is this happening right now? But then obviously I was pulling for you guys against the Chiefs, and we had to watch that mess again. But I'm just glad the Eagles won.
Yeah, I feel like every time we talk, Jeremy, we end up talking about the similarities in the trajectories of the teams here. You've got the same draft class with the marquee quarterbacks. Now we've got an MVP in Allen's pocket that was hotly contested with Lamar Jackson, whereas last year it went to Lamar Jackson and it was kind of hotly contested with Josh Allen, maybe not as hotly, but anyway. And they both have the same problem, which is they can't get all the way there despite having the most important position absolutely nailed down. What is the state of things? Like, is there, at least your coach has at least got the Super Bowl. It's quite a few years ago now, but he's got that, whereas the Bills coach does not. What's the overall feel around the Ravens? Is there fatigue with the familiarity of the failure, or is there still optimism because, well, Lamar Jackson's excellent and they look like they should still be one of the best teams in the conference?
I mean, not to sit here and straddle the fence on this, but I think it's both. I think in the offseason, it's the fatigue and everything else, like, oh, you got to get rid of this guy, that guy, sign this person. And because the Ravens aren't very active in free agency because, I mean, frankly, they're one of the best drafting teams in the league, and then they're usually making the tough decisions of, are we keeping this guy or letting him walk, or do we trade him? But I also think as soon as the season starts, everybody's got the optimism that they're going to win it all until the next loss. So, I mean, I think that's how fickle the fans are here. But I've been one of the guys talking about hardball. Like, that's been the one constant here that we haven't seen that Super Bowl win. And let's be honest, when the Ravens won that Super Bowl back in 2012, that team had no business getting to the Super Bowl. It was one of the craziest rides you'd ever see. And Joe Flacco is the only other quarterback besides Joe Montana to throw 11 touchdowns and 0 picks in the postseason, and I still don't know how it happened.
Yeah, the game in Denver.
The game in Denver, that crazy pass that probably should have been intercepted and wasn't, and it goes for a touchdown, and you're off to the races.
Jeremy, on the playoff game this past year, you had the turnovers there, right? Like the Bills, we sort of took stock of the Bills season, and one thing about their defense, like Baltimore never punted in that game. It wasn't like the Bills were able to really do anything. It was a couple of self-inflicted errors, and that probably does feel familiar for the Ravens, right? I mean, Jackson's turnovers, the Andrews drop isn't familiar, but that happened.
Yeah, I mean, all right, so if you're looking at it, there's been a couple oddities. Like Mark Andrews hadn't fumbled since 2019, which, look, you're susceptible at any moment in the game, but you haven't seen it from your star player and your number one pass catcher. And then on the flip side, you look at that 2-point conversion, and I don't know that he could have had an easier pass go his way. And I'm sure he's thinking, where are my feet? Thinking about getting him down, eyes off the ball, and then you see what happens. There was a lot of thought that he wouldn't even be on the roster this year, that they were going to trade him or maybe release him. And now with some of the restructures they've done on a few contracts, they think they might be able to keep him unless someone overwhelms him. But it's that feeling of like we had Zay Flowers fumble through the end zone, and it's an effort play. Like they dominated the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago, and they still lost the game because they came in with the worst game plan ever. And if it's not for one mistake, they're probably moving on and playing in the Super Bowl. But this is what happens, and you have to start questioning things. Why in 2019 did the running backs only get 6 carries in the game when you're the number one rushing team, and the game was never out of reach? It was always an 8-point game. So there are a lot of things I think fans look at, but I think that happens in every city where everyone starts to question their own guy.
Right, that's the game against Tennessee you're referencing, the last one?
Yeah, the running backs got 6 touches in that game, and everybody's going, I mean, to start the second half, you had the weird kind of where you're down 8 points, and they came out and they ran the same exact 3 plays that they ran in their first series of the game, which was just ridiculous.
Well, if you haven't said so already, because we're in the same business, and as Bulldog said, the storylines are kind of the same, the trajectories of the two teams. How do we talk about this, right? I mean, and then Kansas City goes and gets blown out anyway this year, unlike last year. There are changes to the roster. The Bills sign Joshua Palmer. The Ravens get DeAndre Hopkins. There are little moves, if you will. But I was thinking about this morning. I think about this a lot, like how to keep it fresh for the audience, right? Like what is the state of mind of the fans? And I think for a lot of us, it's just let's get to January. I mean, the season will be fun, you want to think, and these moves have some meaning. The Bills signed Joey Bosa, Jeremy. I'm like, don't even play him in the regular season. Why? Unless you get behind in the division or something. So I don't know. It's challenging to think about the team and talk about them when it's like this, when really all that's left to do is win a playoff game against Kansas City.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and I'm not sure if it happens with you guys as well, like I get tired of realizing how good of a team that they have and talking them up just to inevitably get to that point where you're going to go, I don't know what happened in the last game. And I feel like we've been there. Like I really felt like the Ravens, I mean, they won the Triple Crown on defense and had, the MVP on offense, and they still couldn't get it done because of some goofy things that happened. And it's got to be the same way in Buffalo, where it's like, I'm tired of reiterating these same old stories and asking, why does this keep happening? There has to be some way to get away from it and make something happen in the postseason, whether it is getting the number 1 overall seed, which the Ravens have had and still didn't get there. But, you have this window open for a period of time, and it's like, how long can you keep it open before you have to start moving on from players that were really helpful to you getting there to begin with?
Right. The Bills kind of went through that. I don't even think kind of. They really went through that last year with the purge on the roster and the Diggs trade, Hyde and Poyer and Mitch Morse and Tre'Davious White. I mean, these are cornerstone players, many of whom were here for the entire ride from the time McDermott walked in the door. And yet they still were able to pivot and find their way to it. So what happens then is, and this is not good for our business certainly, is just, they'll just be good no matter what. Like I never want to be in a place where I'm thinking I don't really care who they add or who they draft or what they do because they've got this quarterback and they'll just find their way. But there's probably some truth in that, and I would think Baltimore's kind of the same way. You've got this cheat code that is going to fix a lot of the problems.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, I don't know how much you guys actually talk baseball up there, if you're Blue Jays fans or they go off to the other New York teams, but when I look at the Orioles here in Baltimore and they go through this rebuild, and you're like, we're 2 years into this and fans expect a World Series already after coming out of a rebuild. It's like, I don't know if your guys' your expectations are realistic. And then when you look on the football side, you're saying, man, you guys have had one of the best teams, if not the best team in football year after year. What is it going to take to just get to that point? And as you point out, like, both teams have MVP quarterbacks, and we've seen them win games. Hell, I've seen some that obviously go awry and don't go your way. I think Lamar's learned from some of those mistakes, but it's kind of odd how this history kind of repeats itself. Maybe we just got to break up Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I don't know.
Something's got to happen here, Jeremy. We should be collaborating. Jeremy Kahn from 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore on the West Shore Hotline. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. The Bengals news is pretty big, signing Chase and Higgins just the other day. You know, I think from a Bengals fan standpoint, that had to be really, really exciting because you're kind of expecting with the Bengals, a team like that, your best guys to get away, and that was much of the speculation about Higgins, at least. Then it doesn't happen. I think that's really important in the construct of the AFC here, Jeremy. I mean, you might agree, but there was a possibility that Cincinnati was coming apart, and now, I mean, they were. Think of the two Ravens games for starters last year, how close those games were and how close Cincinnati was to getting in anyway. I mean, are they for you right up with Baltimore, Buffalo, KC, or not quite?
I can't because of their front office. Like, again, the idea of keeping T. Higgins and Jamar Chase makes a ton of sense, but to allow all these guys to come up at the same time and now trying to make decisions of what you're going to do, and they're basically taking out the credit card and trying to keep things short now. So maybe for the next 2 years, but at some point, all that's going to bite them in the rear end. They haven't done anything on the defensive side, and it was arguably the worst defense in football last year. So the only thing I could say is definitely take Joe Burrow as your quarterback in your fantasy drafts because the final score is going to be 51-48 every week. It's going to be a ridiculous offense. I personally thought they should have gotten something for T. Higgins. Anybody you put alongside Jamar Chase, if they're capable of running a route, and they have some sort of talent, they're going to have one-on-one matchups and be able to win a good portion of the time because of how much attention he gets. But, I mean, you're right from the standpoint of I think they wasted that small window they had when they had all those guys on their rookie deals, and they should have worked some contracts out sooner. But because they waited, now this is what we get. I don't know what their defense is going to look like next year. Their best run stopper's gone, and they're trying to sign their best pass rusher, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I said yesterday I think they should have traded Higgins the year before last. The first time they franchised him. Like, let's sell high and get some assets and, find somebody else to run alongside Chase, then you're probably still going to be extremely potent on offense. Easy for me to say. But back to the Ravens. Like, what else needs to happen here? We're here wondering who the Bills' number 2 corner is going to be, opposite Christian Benford, wondering about paying James Cook. Like, are there any, like, hot button issues right now, personnel-wise, contract-wise, extension-wise with the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing would be, what are you doing with Justin Tucker? I think they got to let him know this month if he's going to be a post-June 1st cut. I would assume they are. From my people I'm close to, I know a couple people that are involved in the situation. I totally believe all the girls, no matter whatever else comes out, that something did go on there. So, like, that's the first thing they're figuring out, I think, here in recent days. Now, getting Ronnie Stanley signed, that kind of took a lot off their plate with making sure you have your left tackle, and they got him at a mint, 3 years and $20 million each year. So he definitely gave him a hometown discount, so that's going to help. And you mentioned the signing of DeAndre Hopkins. They're only asking him to be their third receiver, so it's like I think when you look at the team, they have to start thinking about what we talked about when you're drafting well. Their center, Tyler Linderbaum, is expected to make $20 million next year in his 5th-year option. Are they picking it up? The same thing with Adafe Owe. His contract's coming up. I don't know that you can pay both of those guys right now the way the salary cap is. So, again, they have some tough decisions to make. But I think with the way that they've drafted and the fact that they have 11 picks coming up in this NFL draft, I mean, they're going to do some damage because they always draft well.
With Jeremy Kahn in Baltimore, what do you think of Hopkins, that addition, and, like, what's left there?
Yeah, I thought he was going to retire, to be honest. He's not, like, done. The one thing I like about him, and I wondered if, like, Anquan Bolton kind of did it, when you get to the back end of your career, if you start moving in the slot and get that matchup, and he knows how to use his body and run routes, and he does. He catches the ball. Big question is, can he get open? I think being a third receiver here, as long as he's coming in and realizing, hey, I may only get 30 targets this season, or maybe he gets more depending on how things go. But I actually like the idea of him coming in and giving some depth there. I know the one thing that worries me is that I feel like the Ravens have been relatively healthy the past 2 years, and knock on wood, we've all seen it. We've all had those years where it's like, man, can we catch a break at this position? So right now they feel pretty good about the base that they have. With the cornerbacks, they'll probably draft another. But ultimately, I think they feel pretty good at what they have right now.
Kyle Hamilton is one of my favorite players in the league, and we're in draft season. Nick Emenwuri out of South Carolina is a big safety that, to me, as soon as I saw his vitals, I hadn't even looked at a second of him playing. I saw safety, 6'3", 220, and went there's my Kyle Hamilton chess piece. How much can you understate or overstate just how important he has been to that defense?
Yeah, and talking about Nick, they were saying that at first they were wondering if he was going to slide in the draft. He said, could you imagine if the Ravens got both of those guys? It would feel like an absolute cheat code back there on the back end. But with Kyle Hamilton, the guy literally does everything. Like if you look at his PFF grades, no matter where he's playing, and he can play every position on defense except for D tackle, but moving around, he rushes the quarterback. He gets a high grade there. In pass coverage, high grade there. Run defense, high grade there. He's just everywhere and does everything. And it's guys like this where I don't know they get talked about enough. I'm waiting for him to be mentioned in Defensive Player of the Year, but more times than not, it's the guys getting sacks or picks, and that starts to show out. And I don't know that too many teams are going to target him when he's on the field. But we also saw him move up and play up in the zone a little bit, more in the box this year. And I think they wanted to move him back. So once they had some of the injuries, they moved him back a little bit. And you could really see him shining when he's in his normal position back there at safety.
Andrews is staying, right? There was some speculation. The way the GM was talking before the combine, people were wondering, but he's back.
Yeah, well, I guess so. The way it looks right now, I mean, they paid him his roster bonus over the weekend it was $4 or $5 million. It's kind of weird. Like when I see Deebo Samuel get traded for a fifth-round pick, I'm going, what's Mark Andrews at $16 million or whatever, and I'm sure somebody would extend him. What's that worth for 1 year left of him?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I couldn't imagine it's a lot, but I think that's what they were trying to do, and they were expecting more. And I don't know that they got the offers they wanted, but to be honest, if he comes back, I mean, I don't think anybody's complaining about having Likely and Andrews. I did hear some reports of people saying, what if they decided to keep Andrews and then trade Likely? What could you get for him? And I'm going, don't even talk about that nonsense. Like, you got a young tight end that could end up being one of the best in the league. I think you got to roll with it. But the Ravens kind of had what I would say is a little hiccup with all their tight ends coming up in the same season. So they didn't have any under contract except for Mark Andrews. And well, after this year, you have to figure it all out.
Are you enjoying the Steelers quarterback mess?
I see. There's a big part of me that wants Aaron Rodgers to go there just to talk about it all year long. God, is that guy a cancer, man? And the other part of me wanted him to go the Favre route and join the Vikings. But seeing the Steelers get DK Metcalf and go, man, what a great pickup that is, and then they pay him and then go, who the hell's throwing him the football? Like, Mason Rudolph's not the answer, So I was a little disappointed to see that that we had, God, now I just blanked on the pass rusher from Cleveland, that he went back to Cleveland.
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Myles Garrett, I was a little disappointed to see him go back, but when they offer you that much money, I don't know that you turn it down, but I would have liked to seen him get on a team that has a chance to make the postseason and see what he looks like there.
Oh, dude, we were I was anyway. I don't want to speak for Mike entirely on this, but I was lost in the idea of the Bills trading whatever it was going to take to get a guy like that on their defense. And yeah, when I
amazing, man.
Driving around that Sunday morning when I heard on whatever the national show that was on our station, the CBS radio show, what? After all that, it's not unprecedented that the money makes all the problems go away. We've seen it probably too many times to count in sports, but wow, I thought he was really dug in.
Yeah, it reminded me kind of Blake Snell during the pandemic, where he's like, I'm not coming to play with that Rona, and then they gave him $15 million for the shortened season. He's like, all right, I'm back.
Yeah.
When the mic comes calling, I think those guys change their mind real quick.
Everyone has his price. Rodgers, when the Jets got Rodgers, Jeremy, I respected that. They make that trade and all right, let's see what it is. and he tears his Achilles on the fourth play of the first year against the Bills. There goes that. And then last year, it was just so satisfying. I mean, the Jets season is off the rails. They come here, Bulldog, maybe week 17.
Yep.
And it's 40-0 in the third quarter. And he's throwing picks, and just they're always right in on his face whenever anything happens and just blaming guys. It was just so satisfying to watch. Then they finally take him out at 40-0 and put Tyrod Taylor in. Touchdown. It just couldn't. It doesn't get any better. If you really dislike a player, that is peak.
We work post game after Bills games, but I had that day off, that Sunday off, and let me tell you, the beers tasted extra delicious. Watching him look like a jackass all afternoon. I mean, it was really, really great.
It feels like he tries so hard to be that way. Like I used to hear the reports that he didn't talk to his family back when he was coming out of Cal, and I'm going, oh, that's sad. And then his brother gets into the league for the cup of coffee that he had, and then you're like, oh, he doesn't talk to anybody in his family? And then you start to go, yeah, he's kind of a jerk. Now I get why nobody wants to be around him. And especially when things go wrong, even if it was somebody else's fault, you can't sit there and point the finger at everyone else every damn time. And it gets to be so much. So, yes, I hope he ends up being a Pittsburgh Steeler.
The best was with the Jets when he would say, we need guys who are more focused on football. Like he literally
right. Fewer distractions.
I don't know if he was in Egypt when he said it, but he did say it.
Going on another dark retreat.
Yeah. Jeremy, thanks as always for your time. We'll talk again down the road.
Anytime, guys.
All right, Jeremy Kahn, 105.7, The Fan in Baltimore. At JCon Sports, by the way.
Is there any new news on Rodgers? Just he's going to take his time. That's it. We're just in a holding pattern. I think that's the only thing that's happening there. So nothing.
I feel like that is the play. That's the Rodgers way, isn't it? Like you're going to be talking about me every day, and I'm going to make you. I'm going to make you wait. I don't know, but I haven't heard anything.
I guess I do enjoy talking about it. Yeah, I could choose not to. I seemingly can't wait to talk about it. So I guess he wins, right? He's got me. I like talking about him. I can't stand him, but I love talking about him.
Well, whether you take it from the standpoint of the Steelers fan or like the Steelers rivals fan, like the Ravens or even the Bills, what do you want for them to do? And when the Jets got Rodgers, from a Bills standpoint, I didn't love it because I thought the guy was still good enough that he was going to be a problem, and he wasn't. So if you felt that way, you were more that way from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is going to be great. Bring it on. And so maybe at this point, Jeremy or whoever, Cleveland, Cincinnati, would want Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're supposed to want instead.
I felt compelled to respect it at first in New York just because they'd been so bad and the roster was so good that even him, I thought he certainly was not the player he had been just even 2 years earlier. That last year in Green Bay was pretty average, but pretty average could have been good enough for the Jets. But he got hurt, and then by the time he's coming back last year, I thought, forget it, it's over. This is not going to happen. And I don't see any way that it gets better from here for him. Different supporting cast, different whatever. I think he's cooked.
Lines are open for your calls. Stephon Diggs visiting the Patriots, NFL Draft, the tournament. We're bouncing around here. Paul Hamilton joins us at 6 with the Sabres playing in Utah tonight at 9. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Hope to hear from you next. This is WGR.
We know you can't hear
Game night for the Buffalo Sabres. They look to win their third in a row. They take on Utah. Face-off set for 9 o'clock tonight. Pre-game show will start at 8 here on WGR. The Buffalo Sabres also announcing today an extension for defenseman Jacob Bryson. It's 1 year, $900,000. Elsewhere in hockey, Alex Ovechkin remains 8 goals away from Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. Washington playing against Philadelphia tonight at 7 o'clock. First round of March Madness going on all day today. Here's what we've got going on right now. 3 games in progress. Auburn up 20 on Alabama State in the second half. BYU and VCU getting started here. There in the first half. It's tied at 22. Meanwhile, McNeese all over Clemson. I think the Tigers need to be unplugged and plugged back in again. They're down 31-13 after the first half. Meanwhile, to the NBA, the Boston Celtics reportedly sold for $6.1 billion, according to ESPN. That price would surpass the price that it was to get the Washington Commanders sold in 2023. Those are your sports headlines, brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer for WGR.
Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Called you and were like, we need you to follow him into the darkness for a couple days. He says if you come down there with him, he's signing. Are you going to be off the grid for a little bit, go to the darkness and try to get this guy?
I ain't doing that or darkness retreat. I don't need any of that crap. Like, either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't. That's simple. That's the pitch. If you want me to recruit, that's the recruiting pitch. You know, Pittsburgh Steelers, if you want to be part of it, so be it. If you don't, no skin on my back.
Cameron Hayward recently referring to Aaron Rodgers and what level of interest he might have in the Steelers. I know one thing. If I'm Pittsburgh, Giants, I think Browns, and probably Tennessee having Levis, I don't know if I'd be done with that all the way if I were a Titans fan. Imagine being a Titans fan. Pittsburgh, Giants, Cleveland. I want a kid from this draft. And if I have Rodgers or I have Russell Wilson or Carson Wentz, whoever else might be available that's a veteran, I don't have to hate that. But I'm not drafting a quarterback because of it. And like with Rodgers, I mean, you and I probably sometimes both go too far when it comes to him and just assumptions we make. Maybe not. I don't want his opinion of whether I'm going to draft somebody. You know, when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, he was all freaked out about that. That was maybe different because he was such an icon there and had won so much, and you know, not quite exactly at the end of his career. This would be a new team. I don't really care what he thinks or whoever the guy is. Russell Wilson could be this too. I just, for the franchise and the Giants, especially because the Giants thing is that the coach and maybe also the general manager, there's urgency for them individually. And that is just not best for my organization that I'm a fan. Fans and the owners are who's aligned here, you know, in theory at least, where you want what is best for the team for, you know, years to come ideally, and not make decisions based on whether a coach needs to win 8 games to save his job. So maybe it's not the strongest, deepest quarterback class. If I'm a Pittsburgh fan, I kind of want Jackson Dart in the first round or Milroe in the second or someone else. It's not a long list.
No, I mean, I 100% agree. I think one of the hardest things to deal with when you're talking about Rodgers is the idea that, you know, maybe you just said it. Like maybe it gets exaggerated, and maybe we, you know, make too much out of it to make the point and kick him because you know I feel like he deserves to be kicked to an extent. But there's so much catering to him that seems to be included with any courtship and eventual signing. Like you're gonna make your bed with him in it. You, I think, have to sign off on a certain amount of like giving him what he wants, surrounding him with what he wants. And man, I'm not saying he's not been he's a Hall of Fame caliber player. He's been an incredible player in his career. He is not that player anymore. And if he still wants that kind of treatment, that's where the disconnect is for me. You know, like if you take his name off of it and give me the career he's had, even with the injuries and everything, I don't think he's a terrible idea at all for a team. I don't, Pittsburgh, given what's out there, I don't think he's a worse idea than Russell Wilson necessarily. It might be a push at worst. He's definitely a better idea than Jameis Winston. If you're trying to like be a team that's going to, take care of the ball, win games, try to be a playoff team, like Winston is just a high wire act that I would not want to sign up for if that's my goal. I'm just trying to get through a season and get to another guy. Fine, bring me Jameis Winston. Maybe it's better for me if he throws 30 interceptions again. But Rodgers, there's just so much that is included with it. At least that's how it's perceived out here. If we're all wrong or I'm all wrong about that, then so be it. But that reputation has been well earned. It's been well documented, and that is just that's not a boat I want to get in, considering what he is as a player. Again, you can hold it against a guy having power and being catered to when he's in his prime if you want. Like, you'd probably rather have a guy that's just good team guy, yay, go team. Not everyone's like that, and there's probably a lot that goes on behind the scenes with lots of star players that we never hear about. That maybe would embarrass them and make us not like them as much, which is why we don't hear about it, because teams are protective of their guys that they've hitched their wagons to. Rodgers, it's all out there, and I would not want to bank my reputation, my season, my job on that guy. I just wouldn't trust him to do what needs to be done and to bring everything together. I just think he's more trouble than he's worth at this point. That's really where it comes down to for me. If he could still play regularly at a level that warranted putting up with all the crap, okay, then that's a conversation. I don't think that exists anymore. You're talking about a guy that's maybe at best going to be in the middle of the pack. And why am I catering to that? Why am I bending over backwards to try to make that work? I shouldn't have to do that to settle for that level of play. And I think you're delusional. You're deluding yourself if you're an organization that thinks he's going to get back to, there's going to be some late career swan song renaissance thing or something. It's just not worth it to me anymore.
No, that you have made that quite clear. Winston, I've said this before, I just want there to be a team that wants to try that. Coaches hate turnovers so much that the upside that he gives you, the plays that he gives you that are good, it's just not enough for teams to want to deal with the picks. I'd love to see it, though. Like, Pittsburgh is a team, even the Giants with Malik Neighbors, but Pittsburgh is a team with Metcalf and Pickens where you might think that could be interesting. It's hard to, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or maybe Kenny Pickett, who went to Cleveland, any rookie, they've just been so the same team for 4 years, where they're like good enough to beat the bad teams, win enough games to get in, and then play a good team in the playoffs and go down hard. That's what's happened year after year here for a few. And it's hard for me to imagine that being different. Like, if Rodgers is there, I think they're still that. I think they're that if Wilson went back to Pittsburgh, which is just what they were. Like, why wouldn't you think that? Or even Winston. So definitely get a rookie in there. But Winston and Neighbors, Winston and Metcalf or Pickens, I'm a fantasy player. Like, that could just be huge.
Yeah.
And, there'll be mistakes, and you won't always lose. Plus, what people don't point out often enough about Winston is he's one of the all-time great playoff quarterbacks.
What's that now?
1 for 1, 56 yards, 1 touchdown. The hallowed 158.3 passer rating for his career.
There's that.
1 pass, touchdown, Traquan Smith. It's the game, the Saints and the Buccaneers. He's on New Orleans. Brady is the Bucs quarterback. So it's the 2020 season. The Chiefs beat the Bills and then lose to Tampa.
Okay.
He goes in for 1 play. I don't know why. Breeze was the quarterback in this game, and on this drive, they get a first down. Winston goes in, and it's a 56-yard touchdown pass. Then he never goes back in. What's a guy got to do?
Kind of blows my mind that Breeze was still the Saints quarterback in 2020. I feel like he's been gone forever. Maybe that's because he sort of came and went on TV already. Like he tried that on, and
I liked him,
and I couldn't stand him.
Yeah.
And then it's just once you do that, it feels like you've been gone a long time. Like I've seen he might want to get back into the TV thing. Like I mean, good luck. Maybe he'll be better at it. I don't know. But I never cared for him in that role. But that flaming out so fast makes it feel like he's been gone longer, because he had a 2-year, if that, broadcasting career is what it feels like.
Winston is on the team. Breeze is on the team. They lose that game to Tampa Bay. 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions by Breeze. Not Winston's fault. Maybe they thought just having him on the team meant there would be picks.
Yeah,
that was enough. His presence was enough. And then last year he gets a chance with the Browns. Remember, they have a game in Denver. And what was that stat line? 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 400. What was that stat line? That was just the best.
I remember that game. I remember a night game he played, maybe against Pittsburgh. Oh, that was the Denver game?
Well, that was a night game.
Okay. I remember a night game, a different night game. I don't feel like it was a great game for him. But anyway.
I got to find that. That was just the best, everything happened in that game. Cleveland at Denver. They lost 41-32. Winston. Okay, are you sitting down? 34 for 58, 497. 497. 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. We got to have this guy in the league. I mean, let's see Josh Allen throw for 409. Then you'll know he's really good. You see Josh Allen throw for 497.
Now. All right.
What's his career high going to be? What's Allen's career high? It's over 4.
Yeah, I bet he's already got it. But yeah, I mean,
it's not going to be 497.
No, it's not. No, all I'm saying is whatever his high is now, I'm not predicting he's going to go past it.
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, really?
Is he in the 400s? Does he have a 400-yard game?
He has 4.
Okay.
424 is his career high. It's the game against the Steelers where he throws the touchdown pass from his back.
98-yarder. Yeah, and then another long one.
On 20 completions.
That's pretty impressive.
424, 4-1. He threw for 4.
He's already better than Jameis Winston, see?
Because of what? The 20 yards per completion?
How many did he need? 34 passes? I mean, Come on.
Yes. Twice against the Dolphins. 2020 season in Miami, 31-28 win, 4-15, 4-0. And then the loss in the Heat, he throws for 400 exactly in that game. Because we knew they had 500 yards. They were just 300 yards more than the Dolphins in that game. And the other one is Seattle here in COVID.
Okay.
31 for 38, 4-15, 3-0. That is great. Season low or career low, his last regular season game would be his career low.
Okay.
0.
Right.
1 handoff left.
Game that he actually played, is it that Houston game from earlier last season?
He had 5 passing yards in a game against the Jets end of the season when they took him out.
Okay. A game he really played is what I need here.
The game, his debut game, where he went in for Peterman, he had 74, but that's not a start. Rookie season, Tennessee. Rookie season at Houston, and he got hurt in that game. Dallas last year, 94. James Cook game.
All right. Yeah, he did get to 131 in that Houston game.
On 9 completions.
Right.
Dallas they were so dominant running the ball. 7 for 15, 94. Allen in that game. Oh, that's like the fantasy playoffs, and you're in the playoffs because you have Allen, and then he goes for 94 yards. against the Cowboys, that had to hurt. That had to hurt.
Is Jameis Winston better than Josh Allen? 803-0550.
Many are debating it. I just saw it up on the. It wasn't even around the horn. It was on the tournament. The McNeese game is so bad that they're actually having that discussion. Are we sure? Jameis was a first overall pick. He's got the draft capital edge. I didn't see Allen go first overall. Should have. Or Lamar. 803-0550 for your calls. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. NFL draft, free agency, tournament stuff. We're having our fun. This is WGR. Okay, how are we looking? Auburn's going to win, up 21. McNeese is up 21 on Clemson, a 12 versus a 5 with 12 minutes left. BYU by 6 over VCU, late first, final minute. Gonzaga 23, Georgia 3. 8 minutes in.
Battle of my Bulldogs.
How about that? A lot of love for Gonzaga in the bracket world. Sam picked him to go to the Final Four. Sam was pretty, he talked around it, but he did what I heard a lot of people saying they wanted to do with the brackets, which was respect how great the 1 seeds are this year, but not pick them all. And the one that got picked the least often, I bet, was Houston. And that's Gonzaga in the second round if Gonzaga wins against Georgia, and 23-3. Pretty good start.
Yeah, I like their chances.
So Sam's looking good there.
Still a lot of basketball left, though.
So much. So it's everybody makes a run. I don't know. Ask Clemson if that's true, or Georgia. 25-3. Wow. Auburn couldn't even do that. In Joe Ostrowski's Survivor Pool, Bulldog and I are both in it. Wisconsin was the most popular pick. I did it. It's lame. I hate doing the most popular thing, but they won at least, so I'm not dead. Gonzaga was second, and Gonzaga will be 8 points in that format because they're an 8 seed,
right?
Which, say somebody picks Gonzaga and survives, I pick Wisconsin, and the rest of the tournament, we both pick winners all the way to the end. We're the final 2, but we pick the same number seed every other game, I will lose. First prize will be, I don't know, what is it, 6 figures in this thing? And I won't get a dime in that. So you got to make sure you find a way to pick some high seed just in case it goes all the way to the end. And you don't want to pick teams in the same quadrant either, because you could run out of teams that way. If you run out of teams, you're out. If you have no team left to pick, you're out. Simple. Really, really one of my favorite pools is this pool. The Sabres continue their heroic race to over 79.5 points tonight in Utah. Marvin, Thelma, and Provo. That's 3 names I enjoy. Paul Hamilton will join us at 6.
I'm going to need Utah to get right out of the NHL because if every time the Sabres are playing Utah, it's going to set you off on a binge of quoting movie lines that no one remembers, I'm just going to really have a problem. Never seen Blues Brothers, never seen Slapshot. He's going to endlessly quote
Fletch.
Chevy Chase's 5th best movie.
It went down. My doing this has caused it to drop in the rankings since yesterday.
You are not helping.
It isn't above Modern Problems, but it is good. No, it is above. I'm just kidding. It is above Modern Problems. Although I liked Modern Problems. Dabney Coleman. Have you ever seen a movie with Dabney Coleman that you didn't love?
Love?
Yeah. War Games.
Don't even care.
McKittrick.
Don't know it. You're going to really quote that chapter and verse now, too?
He is a character in War Games. I love the name, McKittrick. Come on, Ali Sheedy.
That's his name, okay.
That's not his name. It's a different guy.
Oh, sorry.
There is a McKittrick.
I'm so confused.
In War Games.
Man, life comes at you fast.
Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, now I'm familiar with the film. I just never saw it, never cared about it, don't care.
Whopper, the computer.
Yeah. Whopper,
Would you like to play a game?
How 80s is that?
Whopper.
Whopper is the computer.
It's an acronym.
Good Lord.
I don't know what it stands for. WOPR.
World.
Probably
Hang
World.
on. We got to take a break. I'll get back to you with the rest.
World. What does Whopper stand for?
World Hope of Peaceful. I'll stop.
What would be a bad result for the Bills in the draft? That's like maybe realistic. What could they do that you would hate? 803-0550. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
More of
Night for the Buffalo Sabres. They've won 3 of their last 4 games and are in Utah tonight, taking on the Utah Hockey Club. JJ Peterka expected to return to the lineup for Buffalo and expected to be on the line again with Alex Tuch and Tage Thompson. Puck drop for Buffalo and Utah set for 9 o'clock tonight. The pregame show starting at 8 here on WGR. The Sabres also announcing today an extension with defenseman Jacob Bryson. That would be for 1 year, $900,000. Around the NHL, Alex Ovechkin still 8 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. Washington playing against Philadelphia tonight at 7 o'clock. First round of March Madness all day today. And, well, if you're a Clemson fan or a Georgia fan, you're probably already looking away from the television. Gonzaga up 30-10 on Georgia in the first half, halfway through the first half there. Meanwhile, Clemson is still struggling against McNeese. McNeese up 48-29 on the 5-seed Clemson Tigers. Auburn coasting at this point, the top overall seed up 74-53 on Alabama State, while BYU up by 11 on VCU at halftime. To the NBA, the Boston Celtics were reportedly sold for $6.1 billion, according to ESPN. That would surpass the price that the Washington Commanders were sold for back in 2023. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet is celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR Sports Radio 550.
Dog.
And don't even talk to me about weed.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Did you know, then, that the Tampa Bay Lightning played in, until this year anyway, which isn't this year because of the damage to the facility, the Rays Stadium?
I knew they played in a cavernously large place at one point that I think had a curtain to cordon it off because they would not have used that entire building. But it wasn't until you asked the question you asked me during the break that I remembered that and thought maybe that could have been that building. I remember them being in a really big building that might have, like, when they first started, they might have fit like 20,000 or even a little more in for hockey.
Yeah, they might have. Didn't they have for their first game Chris Kontos? Didn't they have for their first game like the record crowd of all time in hockey?
That might be right.
In that building. I don't know if I never knew this.
Except for like outdoor games and stuff, yeah. Like
which hadn't happened yet.
Right. Okay, right.
At least mostly. If I ever knew that was the same building, I forgot.
Yeah, I don't think I ever put it together, but you asked in here why this came up was Sneaky Joe, I guess, has been on a quest, and I don't want to spoil anything if he's saving something for the morning. Okay, I won't say any more then.
What he was doing, I don't want to ask that particular question because he might have plans for it. It's great. Okay. But what he was doing today, and my guy, what he was doing today was looking up every arena the Sabres have ever played in or stadium. Which is amazing.
Yep.
Whether they'll play in a new one for them tonight. That's the reason probably for it.
Yep.
That would be the Delta Center, which is a name I know because of the Jazz. Mm-hmm. The Delta Center, that's been the name of that arena all the time.
I don't remember it having a different name other than maybe like the whatever it was called before it had a sponsor. I don't remember it being anything other than the Delta Center. And it's not exactly configured extremely well for hockey.
It's not?
There's some I think some seating issues.
Okay.
The way they've got it configured, but they're going to try to get through it.
I wonder what the number is of facilities the Sabres have played in the regular season. Joe texted me earlier to ask me why the Sabres would have played the Penguins in Sacramento in 1993. But they did. And we figured that out. What the league did that year, the North Stars had just moved to Dallas, and expansion was happening. And I don't know if they were testing markets, but they put regular season games in like markets like Sacramento, California, and the teams were Buffalo and Pittsburgh. Florida played a home game in Hamilton or Toronto that year. Like there was maybe every team did it. The Sabres played the Islanders in
Minnesota, you said.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
Which did not have an NHL team that year. So Arco Arena, which was where the Kings played. I doubt they play there anymore, but I don't know. That's 30 years ago.
I'm almost sure they don't play
They probably
there
have a new
anymore.
place.
Yeah.
But the Sabres have a regular season game in their history played in Arco Arena in Sacramento. So what would Joe's number be of arenas and stadiums? You know, Ralph Wilson Stadium, Citi Field for the Winter Classic against the Rangers.
Hamilton, the
Cops?
Cops Coliseum, Cops, the stadium they played in there outside. They played the Leafs outside in a Heritage Classic in Hamilton. Oh. The football stadium there where the Ticats play.
Okay, and they have a new stadium there. Not maybe brand new, but what was the name of that? Ivor Wynn?
Yeah, that sounds
What was the
right.
name of it?
Yeah.
I've been there for a football game.
Right, I know. That's why I remembered it.
So cool.
Yeah.
Right in a neighborhood in Hamilton,
Right,
Ontario.
very old school. Yeah.
But they would have played in Cops too, the Sabres, I think. Didn't they do that?
I don't know. I don't recall, but I didn't recall any of this. Like, really, especially the Sabres playing the Penguins in Sacramento or the Islanders in Minneapolis. I did not remember any of that. So I don't remember. It would make sense if they did play at Cops, but I don't remember.
Do you think it's 100?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'll bet it's 100.
Go back to 1970. Take a team, Boston. All right, that's 2.
Right. Everybody they played early is already onto at least a second building. Right.
Everybody. What's the oldest building in the league right now? You were on a different train of thought.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, there's 60. No, everyone from back then. There weren't 30 teams. So let me take that back.
Even though, I mean, the Sharks are 91? And they played at a place called the Cow Palace.
Right.
And then moved to San Jose Arena. And now they have probably the Sharks are probably 3.
Probably 3, right.
If not more.
And then the California Golden Steels were probably at the Cow Palace too.
Well, no, maybe eventually. I looked them up today for Joe's
purposes.
They in the Sabres' first season, and they would have played all the teams home and away. I think through the 70s, that's what they did. Maybe the 80s, that's also what they did. But they played in a building called the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Arena or County Arena, something like that. Right. It's like the stadium name with arena after it.
Okay.
And there was an arena right next to that stadium where the A's played and the Raiders.
Right. Okay.
And that might be that, unless it's the new place where the Warriors are. I don't know. I love it. How many would it be? 100? Would it be close to 100?
I'm going to guess yes, because of not only do you have all the teams that were in the league when the Sabres came in the league that have at least 2, if not more than that, but a lot of these teams like Tampa, San Jose, teams that came in, in the 90s San Jose's got 3 buildings. Like Montreal only has 2.
Montreal has 2.
Right. San Jose's got 3. They've been in the league like a third of the time, a quarter of the time that Montreal's been in the league, but they got 1 more building. So you've got the Cleveland Barons, you've got the Kansas City Scouts, like defunct organizations that I would say almost assuredly had only 1 building, but they count.
Kemper?
I don't know what the heck. I don't know where the heck Kansas City played. I did see the Scouts play in Buffalo. Yeah, I saw a Kansas City Scouts game as the show ever sounded old.
What about Cleveland?
Richfield Coliseum.
Richfield Coliseum, where the Cavs played.
It was way outside.
Yes, it's
Cleveland.
not in Cleveland.
It's not even in Cleveland.
It's way down. You go into Cleveland and then south.
Yeah.
I think.
I remember driving with my family south to go to Nashville, go to Florida. Cincinnati was always our target. That's why we would stop and go to a Reds game like the first night of the trip, get into Cincinnati 4 or 5 o'clock, go get some tickets, get some dinner, go to a ball game. So that ride, you get past Cleveland. And I can remember as a kid being well past Cleveland and seeing this Coliseum just like in a wheat field.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, what a bad idea that is. But anyway,
here is Sneaky Joe. Joe,
what's up?
This is so cool, this project here. I'm wondering how many. So you think every building the Sabres have ever played in?
Yeah, at least all the data was from Hockey Reference or StatHead. So as long as they've got everything listed, and I think they probably do. They had arenas and stadiums I'd never heard of going back to the 1900s. So
hey, careful.
The number that I found from that was 82.
82.
Okay.
Tonight will be 82.
But I was wondering if it got to 100, but it didn't quite then.
I was going to bet that it would have got to 100, so I would have been wrong.
No. I mean, Tampa tried. I think I found 6 buildings that they played Tampa in, maybe. Was one of them the Cow Palace?
No,
San Jose.
Cow Palace is California. Yeah.
San Jose. Thunderdome, I mentioned to you, Mike, in a text. That was what Tropicana Field used to be called. There were a bunch of Tampa ones. I just tweeted out the spreadsheet, just so if anyone just wants to rifle through it, it's there.
I can't wait. I mean it. I mean it. I cannot wait.
I threw. It was right there, too, so it was just easy to copy and paste. So I threw all the records in for all those arenas, too. So you can look and see that they were 20 and 80 in, for instance.
20 and 80 and where? Bad connection with Joe.
If I remember it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm driving. I might be cutting out on you, but I was just saying the Boston Garden. Yeah.
Boston Garden. All right.
Yeah.
There must have been some fun ones for you. I mean, at your young age, to rip through names like the Omni in Atlanta,
right?
Or McNichols Arena would be Denver.
Yes, before the
Rockies.
Place. Yep.
Brendan Byrne.
Right.
Jersey.
Okay.
When the Rockies moved to be the Devils, they would have played at Brendan Byrne Arena.
I'm driving, so I don't have it in front of me, but there is an arena, called an arena. It seemed like a rodeo place in Calgary from before the Saddle Dome. And I don't have the name in front of me, but I couldn't believe it was a real place they played hockey games.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. That's right. That's right. What was the name of that place?
I don't remember. I'm going to need to find. I'm going to need to find Joe's spreadsheet.
Right when the Flames moved to Calgary, they would have played in before the Olympic Arena was. Yes. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And also Rochester, Joe.
Rochester twice in the early 2000s. Blue Cross Arena. Yep. Found that in there.
They played Washington there.
Yeah, I learned that every arena from pre-1985 was called the Coliseum. Somewhere where did the Cleveland Barons play? The Coliseum at Richfield. Just a million of those.
Right. How about the Stampede Corral for Calgary?
That's it. Yeah.
Stampede Corral.
All right. Yeah.
It's some sort of redundant.
It sounds like a steakhouse that I'm about to drive past.
Right. Yes, enjoy your meal at the Stampede Corral later, Joe. Yeah. What was Vancouver, Bulldog, in the 70s? Oh,
it was definitely a Coliseum.
Pacific
Coliseum. Yes.
Pacific Coliseum sounds right. My question would be, between the two of you, how many of these 83 arenas would you have been to?
Oh God, I'm going to get lost in this.
I mean, not that many.
You've been to Hartford, I'm sure, right?
I've been to Hartford. I've been to Long Island. I've been to Madison Square Garden.
I've been to the Spectrum.
Right. I have been to the Spectrum, not for a hockey game, but for a 76ers game.
I was there.
If that counts.
I was there for an Amerks game.
Okay.
Does that count? I want to count it. I want to count it.
Yeah.
What about Citi Field for this?
I've not been to Citi Field.
I have not.
I've been to
well, that's one.
I've been to the Bills Stadium. Joe, let me just count this on our own here. But thanks for calling in.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
It's just so noisy.
Sneaky Joe from our morning show.
Sneaky Joe, very sneaky. Some very sneaky entries.
Never got to the Forum. Been to the Bell Center. Been to Maple Leaf Gardens. Been to the Air Canada Center. I'm not gonna. I'll stop. I'm gonna just keep ticking these off.
I want to know what my number is. I think about this a lot for baseball.
Yeah.
I just went to Philadelphia for fantasy draft weekend, like I do every year, and was talking to a guy there about stadiums because there are 2 teams this year playing in new stadiums. The Rays are playing in the Yankees spring training stadium, Steinbrenner Field, and the A's are playing in Sacramento. There's that again. The A's are playing in Sacramento. So I asked him, Jeff, if he had plans to go. He's a Mariners fan. Do you have plans to go see the Mariners in either of those 2 places? And he said, yes. I said, well, how many stadiums do you need to have gone to the mall? And he said, none. He's already been to the mall. The mall, it sounded like I was saying. He's already been to every current Major League stadium. And I think, like, I have kept a list. I used to care about this and try to see if I could, check a box if I was in a city just for some other reason. That kind of ended when I was in Seattle 2 years ago and had nothing to do. And it was an early flight the next morning, and my family was all crashing in the hotel room, and the Blue Jays were there, which would be the best team to see in Seattle. Like, there's a huge following for the Jays in Seattle. Yeah. And I could have just bought a ticket, gotten a cab, and gone and done that, and then had Seattle, but I just didn't have the energy to do it. I feel like I'm not really trying anymore if that's if I'm not going to do that.
You're like looking at the stadium from your hotel window and you don't go to the game.
Yeah, almost, right. Yeah. Right. But yeah, he's been to all of them, and the point was I've just never thought of it like that for hockey. It was so cool before they replaced the home arena that had been there forever with a big building that looks the same as everybody else's, which is what Buffalo did. It's what everybody did. It's what Montreal did. Chicago Stadium for a playoff game against the Leafs was a highlight.
Oh, that's huge.
And that organ, how does it not fall? Hanging out over the end of the arena. Just incredible. The sounds and
that is a score to beat. That is a score to beat. To be there for that. The best. Boy, tripping a wire now. Like the building, the teams, the stakes. This is a regular season game, but I saw the final Montreal visit to Maple Leaf Gardens.
Okay.
That was incredible to be at. Like, really emotional, like, really cool. I mean, it wasn't that emotional for me, but obviously the feeling in the building was incredible.
Yes.
To be there for that.
I went to the last game ever played at the Gardens, which was against Chicago. And it was a birthday present from my girlfriend to go to this game with her. And just insane. I was watching it recently because I have made friends with a guy who's a Leafs fan, lives out west, and just sort of fell back into that. Mm-hmm. The Leafs got crushed. Gilmore was on the Blackhawks, and it was Jocelyn Thibault in goal for the Blackhawks.
I remember watching the game on TV. You're right about Cops, by the way. That same year, what year did you say the Sabres played in Sacramento and in Minneapolis? Did you say
93-4 was the season.
Oh, okay. 92-3, Joe's got on this list here. They played the Canucks and the Devils at Cops. So I don't know if that was like some series where
I think the same thing.
14 or maybe I'm wondering if it was like a weekend and they played like 4 teams came, or if it was 2 different entirely, times of the year that they played the Devils and then the Canucks later on. But
I don't know.
It says Devils/Canucks 92-93. They lost both.
That's the year before.
Right, I know. I'm saying it's a different year.
Oh.
But you said that they ever played Cops, and I was like, I don't remember them ever doing it, but there it is.
Yeah, okay.
I've got the spreadsheet if you can't tell.
I got to go find it. I also went to the last Rangers game at the Forum, and that was also amazing. That was even better. The Canadians, I think, had just traded Patrick Waugh. Remember that? When he stormed off the ice and said to the owner, I'm never playing for you again, as he left. And then he was traded. And there was electricity in the building. Great game, 2-2 game. Nobody left thinking, the ties suck. Nobody left the Forum that night complaining about ties.
Right.
It was that good. Yeah, boy, this is the definition of trip to wire here. Good stuff from Joe. We did choose to save his one specific trivia question from this, and I'm glad we did because Joe wants to use that tomorrow. So thanks to him for calling in. The Sabres, the whole point, which was his, brainstorm, that they're playing in a new arena tonight at Utah, playing there for the first time, and he said that'll be the 82nd arena or stadium the Sabres will ever have played in.
Tampa is on the board here with a game against the Sabres in Orlando, by the way. I don't remember that at all. I do remember the Orlando Solar Bears of the AHL. I don't know what era that was, but I remember I used to be into collecting minor league jerseys. I don't think I ever bought one, but I remember seeing the logo in the jersey, the Orlando Solar Bears.
Very good. If you had a favorite arena or Sabres, or not Sabres, but arena or stadium memory you want to share, we'll look for it. 803-0550 is the number. Paul joins us at 6. It's 8 o'clock pregame for Sabres and Hockey Club tonight from Utah. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, back after the update. This is WGR.
We know
Game night for the Buffalo Sabres as they look to make it 3 in a row. They are expected to also get winger J.J. Peterka back in the lineup tonight. Puck drop for Buffalo and Utah set for 9 p.m. The pregame show will start here at 8 o'clock on WGR. The Sabres also announcing an extension today with defenseman Jacob Bryson, 1-year extension for $900,000. The Alex Ovechkin watch continues as he remains 8 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. Washington playing against Philadelphia at 7 o'clock. To football, according to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, defensive tackle Lakeith Fotu has a visit set with the Buffalo Bills. To the courts, March Madness, first round going on all day today. McNeese still holding on, but Clemson has made it a little bit more interesting with 2 minutes left in this game. It is 60-49 for McNeese at the moment. Meanwhile, Gonzaga continuing to blow out Georgia as that one's about a minute away from halftime. It's 48-27 in the Battle of Bulldogs, but in favor of Gonzaga. BYU and VCU, it looks like it's all Cougars at this point in the second half, 54-39 as BYU is up on VCU. Those are your sports headlines. It's brought to you by Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR.
I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Lawrence bumped inside. Count the bucket. They're going to get Diani. That'll be his second.
One of the highlights of today's action from the Georgia game. Just so in love with this spreadsheet that Joe just did. I think I've been to 22 of these places.
Wow, you counted already. I did not do that.
I was counting them.
I'm distracted by a minor crisis, which maybe I'll talk about. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was counting them in my head walking around during the break, and now I'm looking at the list.
Yeah.
And not that many are for Sabres games. Like I was at the Capitals Arena for the NCAA tournament.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm just going by, like, if I've set foot in the Boston Garden. I met a friend there, but I never went to a game. Counting it. Bam. It's 2 different lists. It's the ones where you've actually been inside, and then I'm not counting the Forum because I drove past the Forum and was at a stoplight and looked at it, but I did not go.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you that, and I don't even want to really give you the Garden.
Well,
I mean, you didn't go to an event there?
No, I didn't go to anything. Just to meet a friend.
Yeah.
Who was there. Didn't even really look into the bowl.
You didn't. You weren't there. Then.
It was barely in there.
Yeah,
barely.
That doesn't count. You've been to the new place though in Boston, right?
I have for a Sabres game.
I have not been to the new place. I've been to
the Bandits.
I was at the Garden, but I've not been to the new place.
Or it wasn't the Bandits. It was the Nighthawks. I did a lacrosse game there against Boston. Overtime game, by the way, Bulldog. Before you ask if the game was decided in regulation, it was not. Frank is with us. Hello, Frank.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Thank you for calling.
No problem. So I'm just curious as to why we would re-sign Bryson after the past season, and then I saw a post by Joe Marino, and he said that he's got fingers crossed that we don't just roll it back next year and hope this wasn't a fluke. And as for a bad choice in the draft, I just hope we don't trade up with somebody in our own division that comes back to bite us. I just want to hear your opinion.
Or conference, for that matter, like last year with Kansas City, not in our division. But, yeah, I heard somebody make that same point earlier today. I was listening to the morning show, and they used that same phrasing about the division with Kansas City. I'm like, they're not the division. They're in the conference. They're in our way, but it's not the division. Anyway,
it wasn't Frank?
No, I don't think it was Frank. I don't remember now, but anyway, maybe it was oddity that he would have said called us twice in the day, or that 2 different people would have made that same mistake. But anyway, yeah, Bryson, I don't know. We talked a little bit about it earlier, and I don't even care. Fine, he's your 7th or 8th defenseman. That's it. Okay, great. Move on. As far as what they're gonna do, I mean, I don't know. It's possible they find another partner to make the kind of trade they just made with Cousins and Norris. It'd be nice if Norris could actually play more than a couple of games before missing time, which is the problem with him, which is definitely why Ottawa wanted to move him. But I assume that's why they wanted to move. I shouldn't say definitely, because it could have been something else I don't know about. But he's had a tough injury ride, same shoulder, 3 surgeries. Ouch. Don't know what's bothering him now. But maybe you can do that. But I'm always on guard at this time of the year for all the talk about we're coming together and everyone, we love each other and all that. I mean, there was plenty of we love each other early in the year. It just didn't really show up on the ice when guys were lying there bleeding and players just ignored it. But that's improved. But all the talk at this time of the year makes me nuts. There's nothing at stake. I think it's one thing to play your best when, you're just riding it out and you want to feel good going into the summer because, you got maybe a good stretch run or something and everybody's coming together. It's another thing to do it when it really matters, when the standings still are relevant to your existence. And this team, I think, year over year has loosened up and played maybe their best hockey when it hasn't mattered. And conversely has been pretty tight and prone to long losing skids that annihilate any hope you realistically have for the season when the stakes are big. So I don't know if that's going to change, but I understand why someone who follows the team or analyzes the team and talks about the team would say they're bracing for them to just run it back. Because, like you said when we were talking before Greenway and Zucker both re-signed, if they do that, where are the spots that are available? And this came up again briefly earlier, and I said, well, a full year of Kulik will be different, and he's been promising, although he's out with a concussion currently. Norris is a big add if he can get on the ice. There's always an if or a but. I don't know how much more you should expect them to do, especially if they finish strong. I don't think the GM is going to get fired. I don't think they would have let him make the Norris for Cousins trade if that were going to be the case. That can change. The owner can be temperamental about that. Maybe Kevin Adams will do something that offends him in the spring or summer, and they'll move on him. But I understand why you'd be worried about them just running it back.
Well, even this move with Bryson does more of that. It's just, why did it have to happen? I think the Sabres think they're making a bigger point that's important because of their own failures in messaging and also, more importantly, being attractive in the first place to their own players, to other players, like this whole thing. Adams, I think, at least in terms of the image of the Sabres, didn't help when he went into his palm trees thing, right? Like, so what they've done, and Adams, I would say, I appreciate that when he's been on with us, like, he explains it, and he's done it honestly, and he's backed it up. He wanted to keep Greenway, and he wanted to keep Zucker, and it wasn't, like, necessarily obvious that they should do those things, and they did, so he wasn't just giving us a speech. And then Bryson is a version of this too. It's all one more thing in the offseason that you can't do to change a team that is right now last in the conference and going for a 14th straight season without even making the playoffs. I mean, that's just incredible. And if I had that and I didn't have this cloud over my head about whether I can attract players that I may have put there myself even, I would want the most flexibility I could have to make changes. And these moves each give you less and less. So right now they have one UFA, Reimer. That's it. They signed Zucker, they signed Greenway, Bryson was another one, and you've got a half dozen or so restricted free agents like Peterka,
okay,
who will be interesting, and also Quinn, and I don't know what I want to do there. That also kind of came and went.
That's got to be – Peterka could be a big deal. Like, Peterka could qualify for some level of what they did with Thompson and Cousins. I don't know if it has to reach – well, it might reach those numbers just because of inflation, because he's not flashed to the extent that those guys had by that point when they got their deals. But I would understand wanting to lock him up. I think he's still got a lot of promise. Quinn,
people talk trades with him though, like he's in the speculation.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to make of that. He would be an attractive piece. He to me, and he doesn't even have the baggage of Cousins being a ghost for 2 years running. And you saw what you were able to get for him, although, again, it's not in the lineup, and who knows. But Peterka, you could do well, I think, if you can find the right match, right? It's got to be a guy that doesn't have no move. Like, the world is not your oyster in this situation. But he could be attractive. But I think if he gets re-signed, you're looking at, $6-7 million a year, I think. I think that's warranted with today's prices. Quinn, to me, has got to be like a bridge 1 or 2 year thing, because he just has not been the same player. And he's been the same player he was, but it was such a short amount of time to even say that. But I think it's fair to wonder if he's ever going to be the player that you thought he was going to be because of the injuries. Those can be very hard to come back from. Maybe another offseason of training, he comes back here and hits it, and he looks more like the guy that showed so much promise. But we're a long ways from, we're going to use all our cap room re-signing all of our guys. Like, he was prominent on that list when Adams made that point, I think. And I don't think he should figure into that at all.
Quinn.
Yeah.
Also, there's McLeod. 25, nice season. There's him.
He's an RFA coming up. Oh,
yep.
Jeez, I was hoping he was under. That's been a success story. He's been good for them.
Well, I've got 10 forwards under contract for next year already. Without McLeod, without Peterka, without Quinn, without anybody new. I've got 5 defensemen under contract for next year already. Without Byram, I think signing Byram to what market rate would be a tremendous mistake. Maybe they can move Samuelson. He's not super expensive. He's locked up for 5 or 6 more years. 4.2. It's not great, but it's not, gouge your eyes out.
That salary shouldn't be it's not horrendous.
And
that's the best I can do.
It's not horrendous. That's what I'm saying too. And you've got Luukkonen for 4 more years, and then presumably Levi, but that's one. Like, you have almost no openings, and that was part of the plan here with Zucker and Greenway, and now Bryson. Like, this was what I think the Sabres felt like they needed to do. Individual players, sure, there's always the argument you can make, but I think there was a bigger purpose to it.
Well,
and this is the result.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have almost no flexibility, relatively speaking, on a team finishing last.
Unless you can find trade partners, right? I have some sympathy for him and them. Again, like, they've made the situation, and I definitely think he made it worse with the palm trees and taxes news conference. I mean, that was just a horrible thing to put out yourself, to get people talking about and thinking about within the league. Just awful. So that definitely hurts. But given where they're standing now, like, he can't go back in time and fix that. And nor can he change the outcome of the Eichel decision they made about the surgery and all the things that I think are hurting them from an image standpoint within the league, with players. So you've got guys who are willing to stay here that are veteran players. You go into the offseason and they've been a certain level of decent for you, even though your results have not been good. I like Greenway, and Zucker has been good. You let them go, there's no guarantee you can replace them with commensurate guys. So you don't know in free agency. You're probably going to get worse, and maybe, who knows, pay more if you go into the marketplace with the reputation they've got. Again, that doesn't absolve them of the responsibility they have in creating the reputation in the first place, but he's got to work with what he can work with. And so I understand keeping those guys.
Thank you, Frank. Getting connected with the fans brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop online at northtownkia.com. We'll analyze this some more once Paul Hamilton joins the show at 6. The Sabres are in Utah for a game against Utah, which is going to start at 9 with pregame at 8. See how nice?
Good job.
How benevolent I can be?
Good job getting through that.
How benevolent I can be sometimes. But, that can change right back. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.
He'll put up a three. No good. Rebound, a scramble. Hunter has it. Hunter at the buzzer. It's good, but Cowboy up. McNeese has its first ever NCAA tournament victory.
I don't know this voice. It sounds like Chris Brown. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Definitely not.
Sounds to me like Chris Brown.
Would it be okay to hear it again? I feel like I did kind of recognize it. Is that doable?
All right,
might be annoying.
Hang in there, everybody. Here it comes again.
All right.
Zachary, he'll put up a three. No good. Rebound, a scramble. Hunter has it. Hunter at the buzzer. It's good, but Cowboy up. McNeese has its first ever NCAA tournament victory.
I was just looking to kill time.
No.
I don't have it. No, I thought I might know it, but I don't have it.
You know they won by 2?
Wow.
That last shot cut the lead to 2. 69-67. At halftime, it was 31-13, right?
Right.
McNeese. So they're up 18, and there's 44 points on the scoreboard. And we were in a break, and I looked to see the live odds. And Clemson was plus 420 to win, which was kind of interesting. Even though they were down 18, like, they could do it.
I guessed it would be half that. Like, I walked out of the room, walked back in, and I said plus 180 was my guess.
4-1 to win, which they didn't, so that would have been a losing bet. That would have been exactly my kind of bet.
Right, sure.
It was right.
Yeah.
They lost.
Yeah.
And the total was like 113, which would have meant 70 points in the second half. We got to 136. The second half, just 69-67, does not look like a game that at halftime was 31-13, but it was. So McNeese against Purdue in the second round. Houston will probably get Gonzaga, which is up by 21 on Georgia in its game. And what else have we got here today?
And Houston already won today?
Houston won 78-40 over Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville.
Okay.
I believe it is.
Gotcha.
We have Wisconsin winning its game. BYU is up 12.
Yep, 7:48 to go I have.
All right. The Wisconsin will play the winner of that game. I used Wisconsin in Survivor today because Big Ten, one win maybe. Just not expecting Wisconsin to make a run, but I don't know anything. Auburn and Creighton will meet in the second round. Auburn won by 20. Creighton won the first game of the day, like resoundingly over Louisville, 89-75. And, you know, we've got a lot left tonight. Game start as late as 10 after 10. Same thing tomorrow. As you know, the tournament, every year, this is what you get. It's great.
Andrew Catalan, by the way.
It was?
It was
going to guess him.
Well, I know he's there, but...
That's what I thought when I first heard it. That's Andrew Catalan. Then I heard it back. I'm like, I don't want to be wrong. What a jerk I am. I should have just said Andrew Catalan. I had it. Stupid.
Didn't sound like him to me, but that's a me problem.
I guess
Speaking
so.
of basketball, Pat Riley turns 80 today.
I'll bet he doesn't look a day over 73.
You know, Pat Riley, what a career, what a life. Who is the all-time NBA coach?
Phil Jackson.
Really? Okay. I don't want it to be Phil Jackson, but okay. I think I'd pick Riley.
How many? What's the ring? What's the ring totals?
I don't know.
Jackson's got
5, 6.
Got to have them, I think.
Well, as a player too.
Oof.
I'll look it up. Either way, I think it might be closer than that than you think. I mean, 3 or 4 with the Lakers. 3, Riley, and then Miami, executive 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Player maybe 1 or 2 more.
Jackson's got 6 with the Bulls alone, and then Kobe and Shaq.
Lakers. Yeah, that's true. And he has a player championship, at least 1 with the Knicks. So he's around 10. Okay.
That's going to be hard to beat. But Riley's had an incredible career and has stayed in the game in a way that Jackson just simply never seemed interested in doing. He just wanted to go, you know, I don't think he's quite like at the Aaron Rodgers level, but he definitely there's some mountains and some retreating, I think, out there in Phil Jackson's life.
Maybe.
I get that impression.
Okay, that's probably the right answer. Auerbach, 2. Anybody else? Popovich? Not quite on the same level.
No.
Okay. Paul Hamilton, speaking of people on high levels. Paul Hamilton coming up after the update. The Sabres are in Utah. So you can't run the ads and then not run the story. Sabres and Utah Hockey Club pregame at 8 tonight. Paul next here on WGR.
More Sabres, WGR.
Game night for the Buffalo Sabres as they look to make it 3 wins in a row. They're in Utah tonight for the first time since the Utah Hockey Club relocated from Arizona. Lineup news for the Sabres. J.J. Peterka expected to return to the lineup on a line with Alex Tuch and Tage Thompson. Puck drop for Buffalo and Utah set for 9 o'clock tonight. The pregame show starts at 8 here on WGR. Today, also, the Sabres announcing an extension with defenseman Jacob Bryson. It'll be for 1 year, $900,000. Our own Paul Hamilton will join Schopp and the Bulldog to talk more about the Sabres coming up next. To football, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, defensive tackle Lakeith Fotu has a visit set with the Buffalo Bills. Fotu playing in only just 2 games this past season with the New York Jets due to an injury. First round of March Madness going on all day today. Auburn, McNeese, Houston, Creighton, Purdue, and Wisconsin are teams that advanced with wins earlier today. And there's a couple games going on right now on the scoreboard. Battle of the Bulldogs between Gonzaga and Georgia. It's all Gonzaga in the second half right now, 58-36. Meanwhile, with less than 4 minutes left in the game here between BYU and VCU, it is the BYU Cougars, the 6th seed, up 70-55. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Derek Kramer. You're listening to WGR.
Fun an hour ago, thanks to Sneaky Joe, who, as on the occasion of the Sabres playing in for them a new arena tonight, an arena for the first time, the Delta Center in Utah, Joe went ahead, how's this, and looked up every facility they've ever played in, the Sabres. If you want to hear us marvel at that, to put it one way, on the Odyssey app from an hour ago is when it came up. And then he, at the same time, tweeted a spreadsheet with every arena name, city, opponent, years, and the Sabres record. Listed alphabetically, starting with the Arco Arena in Sacramento. In a season where the league put teams in like non-NHL markets to maybe test the market. So the Sabres played a game against Pittsburgh in November of '93 in Sacramento, California. They lost. And it's all right here. You can find it on Twitter, what Joe tweeted out. And I was thinking, here's Paul joining us now on the West Her Hotline. Paul, you would not have all 82 of these, but, I mean, you would have most, right? Although the like, arenas in the 70s and 80s, I mean, you could have been there on your own, but, you know, some of the Rockies and places like that, I don't know if you would ever have gotten there necessarily.
Yeah, no, I never really started traveling till the mid-'90s, so that's where it would have started.
Right, and that's by then the league was starting to, like, new buildings were, the Sabres building, a part of it, 96. So,
right, that's right around the time when a lot of the changes were, like Montreal, Boston, Toronto was 99. So how do you have, like, a favorite that you went to of the buildings that are not around anymore, maybe? Other than the odd
Forum in Montreal, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was pretty cool. Boston Garden was pretty cool. So I think those two would be.
Ever get to any of the older ones in Western Canada? Edmonton, maybe. Like that building lasted.
Northlands Coliseum.
Northlands Coliseum. I was at the Corral for a practice, not a game, in Calgary.
Is that right? Okay. We liked that one. We liked that one.
Right.
The Stampede Corral.
Yeah, but I never saw a game there. And yeah, so that's.
Yep.
And then Winnipeg is just what you know, they're newer building right now.
Replacing the Winnipeg Arena. You would have gotten to the Winnipeg Arena. What was that like?
No.
You
Never?
didn't get there? No.
Mm-mm.
By the time you started traveling, when did they move? When
that's
did
96.
Yeah, they left and then they came back and they had the new place. So
Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right.
Atlanta, I was at where the Thrashers played.
Yep. It's a great list. Anybody wants to look at this,
Right.
find it from Joe on Twitter. Really cool. Including, of course, a couple of stadiums. And Hamilton, Paul. Paul Hamilton. The Sabres played a couple of games in Hamilton in the 90s. And then also, as Bulldog reminded me, I wasn't thinking of it, an outdoor game there.
Right. Yep.
Outdoor game there, and I was covering the series that Mario Lemieux scored that iconic goal in Hamilton.
Yes.
With Gretzky and Lemieux, and Howardchuk won the draw. Murphy was with them on the rush. And that probably is the most excited and loudest I have ever been in the building was when that goal went in.
87, I think, for that.
Yep.
So tonight, the Delta Center in Utah, Sabres and Hockey Club coming up with pregame at 8. We won't be here for the pregame show for the game tonight, so we wanted to fit you in here earlier. And the Sabres have won their last couple, the game in Boston, right, after the win against the Avs. Now, did they come home after Boston, Paul?
No.
Golden Knights.
They stayed
Golden
overnight,
Knights.
then left in the morning, and went to Utah after that, then practiced on Wednesday and have a game today.
What do you make, Paul, of them sort of leaning into finishing strong? I mean, I don't want them to just not try, obviously, but so much about our existence as fans and observers of this team. I'll include media for this point too. It's sort of repetitive and fatiguing, and we get to this part of the year, and I know we talked to you before the Boston game on pregame. Lindy's talking about they're having conversations about how to be a team and being a good teammate on and off the ice, and you don't all be friends. Lindy makes a point about all these years in, and not everyone's going to like one another on the team, but you got 3 hours you're on the ice in a game. You better have everybody's back and all that kind of talk. And whatever the results will be from here to the finish line, I feel like every year we get some version of, we're trying to figure out, who we can be and what we can be. And I don't know. Like, on one hand, I want to respect them leading into putting forth an effort here. On the other, it's irrelevant to what they're going to look like in October, as far as I'm concerned, because it'll be a whole new season where the standings will once again be relevant. And I feel like we've seen this team fold under that numerous times.
Yeah, well, it's all they've got.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all they've got to look at, to be quite honest. They're not going to make the playoffs, so, all they can do is sit there and talk about, becoming the team that Lindy Ruff wanted them to be, that they never were. And, it's
right.
Really all they have to talk about. They don't have anything else to talk about. It's a shame that it took, Thompson to be laying on the ice and everybody standing there watching to, for them to start maybe coming together as a team. And that's what Lindy Ruff talked about, is not only that, that they're all at the scrums now and they're all there for each other. And, when he talked about you don't always like your teammate, but you better be there for him because that's what makes a good teammate. But he also talked about, they're there to back each other up in the scrums, but they need to be there to back each other up on the ice too. And he used a play by Krebs, where Krebs really busted it to get back to break up a 2-on-1 after there was a bad giveaway. And he said, that's a teammate. He goes, the teammate made a bad play. He was there to get back. He hustled as hard as he could, and he helped bail that teammate out. He goes, that's what I'm talking about. He goes, if guys are doing that, he goes, then you've got the starting of a real team.
Yeah. Funny enough, you mentioned Krebs. Mike and I talked about him briefly. I don't think it was during your portion of our show on Monday before that Bruins game. But he, is there more there or what? Like, what is he? What could he be? And I said something to the effect of, I think this is who he is. I mean, there is there's skill in there, but I don't know if it's all going to ever really come out. He's had opportunities on, bigger, more offensively minded lines with different teammates. Then he goes and snipes a power play goal. Right away, just like, oh man, I got the touch right here. I'm magic. What do you think about Krebs? Like moving forward, is he just in your eyes what he's been so far, or do you think that there is still room for growth?
I think basically what you see is what you get offensively. He has had opportunity on some offensive lines. He, came in, he was drafted as a gifted passer, and every now and then you see that, but, he doesn't seem to click for him. I mean, if you're asking me as a number one pick, I don't see it. I would say it's a bust. But as a useful NHL player that you can use in your bottom six and is going to give you everything he has and is going to help you that way, yeah. I think of when I'm talking about that, I think of Zemgus Girgensons, who to me is a bust, but he's played a long time in the league, and he's a bust as a number one pick. I don't think he's a total bust as an NHL player.
He's had a nice career. Yeah.
Right, he's had a nice career. He's just a bust as a number one pick, and I think that's where I land with Krebs.
Paul Hamilton on the West Her hotline.
As far as you know, Paul, does Krebs embrace that, or is he a guy? I mean, I think I know the answer. I think his play, the way his style of play, how he's adapted, I think maybe tells the story. The thing you mentioned earlier about Lindy mentioning him busting it to get back on the 2-on-1, always being willing to jump in for teammates, or even just sometimes having a screw loose enough to want to just fight somebody just for the hell of it. He's kind of that guy. I feel like he maybe is a guy, and this can be a struggle for number one picks, guys that, scored 100 points or whatever in junior and end up being role players in the NHL. Do you know different? Like, is he someone who feels like he hasn't gotten the chance, or do you think he embraces what he's got?
Both. I think he feels he could get a better chance to show what he would probably say he hasn't had enough chance with guys who have that kind of talent. So I think he would feel that he still has that offense in him and has the opportunity to do it. But I think he has also embraced the rest of it. He knew in order to be an NHL player, he had to improve his defense. It wasn't good when he came into the league, and he did that and, used what he had to do that. And one of the things he did is become a little bit of a pain in the rear end. And sit there and he yaks at people, and he's not afraid. I mean, he wasn't, when they were having a problem after, you had Thompson laying on the ice, Peyton Krebs wasn't your problem.
No.
Dennis Gilbert wasn't your problem. There were a lot of other problems hanging around that locker room, but it wasn't those two. I mean, those two would always be there for a teammate no matter what.
Paul, what is the status with Josh Norris? Like, is he played and then he went out, and I've heard sort of what to me is kind of like mixed messages on was he hurt coming in? I know part of his story has been these shoulder injuries. What's the timeline of all this?
Well, I think, Kevin Adams was talking to you guys about, how they went about it with doctors, and where Ottawa's doctor and Buffalo's doctor actually conversed, and he told you guys that is normal. When you get to that point of a trade, then they will show you medical records and they will let you talk to the doctor. So with that in mind, I would say that the Sabres probably knew about this, when the trade was made, because they had said that it's something that he had been dealing with and he hadn't been here that long. So I would guess that it's something they knew about, and all right, well,
we're willing to inherit it.
Thinking that it's going to get better whenever.
Is he back tonight? Do we know?
No, he's not. I know he didn't practice yesterday.
But he's on the trip, though, right?
He's on the trip.
Yeah.
So, Lindy, I watched the interview from yesterday, and he said something like, it's not going as quickly as we wanted it to, kind of the same words he used for Zucker.
Yep.
But he is there. He's hoping to get him on the ice by the end of the week. Well, that would be tomorrow. That's the end of the week. And but he didn't really say when he would be ready for a game.
Okay.
Kulik's not even there.
Right.
I mean, he's in concussion protocol, and from what I heard yesterday, Peterka will play tonight.
All right. Well, what do you think of Utah as an NHL destination, Paul?
Got to get there first.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, tough question to ask you. You're not on this
hoping
trip.
to get there next year and kind of check it out. So everything I read is pretty good, but I was, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it seems like the fans have taken to it, and but again, I can't really say I haven't been there.
Oh, yeah, I know what I wanted to ask you about. Stupid Utah question.
Bryson,
right? I don't know, like. He's their 7th or 8th defenseman. Like, did that need to happen? I mean, he's fine as a depth piece to me. I don't know if you view him differently, but I don't know. Another year of Bryce. I've got a tweet from the Sabres. I don't know. But I don't.
Well, if he's willing to agree to the deal. That's fine. But yeah, you're right. He's got to be your 7th or 8th defenseman. I mean. They have to become better defensively, and I'm not blaming him at all. Actually, I think he's been fine. He hasn't bothered me playing D.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I do like about him is he keeps himself ready. He can sit for 3-4 weeks and be ready to play when they call upon him, and that's what they need out of him. I don't think they need him in their top 6. But if you got an injury to your top 6, there's not many guys that can do what he does and keep himself ready like that and can sit for 3-4 weeks and jump right into the lineup and play at a high level. So that's what I would be looking at, and it doesn't make any difference to me if they sign him now or this summer or whatever. If he's willing to agree to the deal, which is the same deal he had last year, fine, do it. I mean, but let's not force him into a role that. I mean, they need to revamp their defense, whether it's defensive play or, on defense. It's not. They're not getting it done. I mean, Lindy Ruff talked about, the defense has to be better. It's non-negotiable. Well, it was negotiable with the players because it's gotten worse than last year. They're worse defensively than they were last year. So changes need to be made.
Paul, thanks. Enjoy the game.
No problem. Take care.
All right, it's our dude Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline. His appearances here on WGR are brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
I have an opinion on Utah being in the league. I've never been to Utah in my life, but I have an opinion about it.
All right.
I like it.
Good.
Arizona was what? Perennially doesn't draw, doesn't win. That goes hand in hand. They went to a college arena.
5,500 seats.
It was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Always with ownership and the legislature in Phoenix trying to figure out, is there going to be a building for... It was a perennial embarrassment. And, you're a league. You don't want that. So we've got a great, maybe burgeoning market that has a pro sports team in an arena.
Ownership is very stable.
It's a great move. It's, of course, sad for the fans of the team that left, as it always is.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great move.
That's okay. The commissioner is they're talking to Arizona again still.
Yeah, of course.
They just cannot. They cannot quit Arizona. I don't know what the allure is there, but that's making the rounds. I heard actually Joe's come up a lot today. We're gonna text Joe. Thank you for all the content today. But I heard he and Jay are talking earlier today how the league is talking with maybe Houston, New Orleans, Atlanta's always sort of in the mix here too, even though they're 2-time losers on this. I feel like there was another city that kind of surprised me, but I can't think of it now. But Arizona is always on the list. I don't know, Quebec City can't get a return phone call. They've got a building they built for them to play in, but it's just sitting there. Arizona, let's go back to Arizona and try to find out a way that we can, we'll put an arena in, but it won't just be an arena. It'll be a entertainment hub with a casino and hotels and shopping and, oh my gosh, just stop. It's Arizona.
I need you to stop.
Stop with Arizona.
You had your chance.
Anyway, I think Utah, I like Utah. I loved watching footage of the Sabres skating. They practiced at a facility that houses, I think it has an Olympic-sized hockey rink and a NHL-sized hockey rink inside of the Olympic speed skating oval. So I don't know if Lindy made them. The way I read it was he encouraged the Sabres went out in their gear for practice and did a loop on the speed skating oval, and I love speed skating.
Oh.
So I got a kick out of seeing them doing that. A few of them even I saw had the gloves off and the hands behind them, doing the classic stride, which is hard to do on hockey skates because those speed skates have those much longer blades. But still, it was really cool to watch.
It's like maybe the first, Eric Heiden is maybe the first athlete I ever tried to emulate. And it was that he had a yellow 1980 speed skating Olympics at Lake Placid. Might have won 5. He had a yellow suit with the hood, right? And I didn't have like a pond per se, but we had like a big puddle that would freeze in the yard. And I would skate on this, quote pond with one hand behind my back and swing the other arm and just, I don't know. It would take not 5 seconds to go all the way around.
Right.
Without being fast, while being 8 or 9.
Right.
Like, I'd just be out there right by the road, too. That's where the pond would sort of form, right out by the street. And I'd just be out there skating in circles, pretending to be Eric Heiden.
We had a stretch. There were places very close by we could walk to when we were kids to play on ponds and stuff, and it was really, really great. But my backyard, where my parents had a garden in the spring and summer, it was a little lower ground, and so water, I think it might even still do this, would like pool up from the yard behind ours. There was no fence, and water would pool up there, and it would be only about 3 feet wide, maybe, right? But it was the length of our backyard, which, wasn't huge, but it was still, you could get going full speed. And I would go out there with stupid little stick and gloves and my skates and back and forth. You couldn't even really handle a puck on it, but I'd be with my stick anyway just because I'm a hockey player. And just, I can remember skating on that strip and my mother looking out the windows in the backyard like, boys.
Right. That might be it. That might be the takeaway ultimately. Earlier today, and again, the game isn't until 9, pregame at 8, so more of Paul later tonight. But next, earlier today, we spoke with Jeremy Kahn, Baltimore radio host, about the Ravens, the playoff meeting with the Ravens and the Bills, and what is going to happen to Baltimore's roster in the upcoming season and the state of the AFC overall, including Cincinnati's moves of late. That's coming your way next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
We know you can't hear every
I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.